interviewing.
But it was was it because of time?
Well, yeah, but still, that's like, as the interviewer, you've got to find out the nice way to just interject there and say, hey, we're out.
Right.
You're going to put the duty on the poor schmuck who's there.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. We'll get into all that. So, okay, we are officially live, but nobody can hear us. I mean, people can hear us. They can't see us. Hang on. There you go, everybody. Hey, it's Jaffe. Welcome to another episode of Gabbin' Games. This is good sir Adam SESSLER. You guys all know Adam SESSLER. Adam, first, hang on. I'm making sure you guys can see us. Hang on. I told Adam at the beginning of this. There we go. He's okay. We're up. So yes. All right. That goes there. This goes there. We are off to the races. Okay. Adam came to my attention. I'm trying to figure out when you and I first met. It was probably doing press for God of War 1 back in 2004.
Actually, you probably just don't remember. I'm certain I interviewed you for Twisted Metal Black.
You may have. I probably don't remember.
I don't think that was in the nascent days of Tech TV, of extended play. We were not a known entity, but yeah, right. God of War, yeah, I remember that.
That's what I remember the first time meeting you guys. And so I think, and this is going to be a wide-ranging conversation. A lot of people, and we have some mods, and I will look at the chat and the super chats and the phone calls for Adam, which he will be taking, but we will be doing that towards the back end of the show. So if I'm ignoring you in the chat, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just focused on Adam right now. And then at the end, when you want to talk to Adam, we'll facilitate that. The first thing I think everybody wants to talk about is a tweet that you sent recently that said, "I'm old and my penis is cold."
Oh, yes.
That was a real tweet. Is your penis still cold, Adam?
It's actually really chilly in San Francisco.
Is it?
Yeah. It's like, let me see. It's 60 degrees right now.
Okay. Do you does that measure? So it's like if you were to do it's room temperature.
I mean, it's okay where I am right now, so I wouldn't say it's too cold. What's interesting, that was in response.
Oh, I know. Not wearing pants.
Some pants.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just even if you can't see my lower region.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that people can sense my lower region.
I can't sense it. Are you wearing pants?
I am wearing pants, jeans. I think it's the same pair I've had for like the last
Do you
days.
find when you don't have to go down to LA for G4, do you, especially with the pandemic, every day do you take a shower? Do you brush your teeth twice a day? Is that still on your radar?
And it's actually one of the things that I started doing probably more diligently. My shrink kind of recommended this, is get a schedule going.
Yeah.
So I wake up in the morning. I try to read about 100 pages of a book, or before I get hungry, and then I finish the 100 pages. Then I'm gonna put the bed together, take a shower, and then depending upon what the rest of the day has, it's either play video games, do work, or read more.
Okay. So you're able to do it. You're able to hold that schedule. Because I wanted to talk to you. I know you're a big proponent of therapy. I am as well. I know you're in therapy again right now.
Yeah.
Are you in because of just sort of general shit happened in my life and I'm dealing with it? Or do you have some kind of psychiatrist aided therapy as well in terms of you're on certain medication? Or because I'm all over the fucking place. I mean, I'm on Zoloft, I'm on Concerta, I'm on Ritalin.
I'm primarily, I'm on Cymbalta.
Okay.
Like anxiety's the big bugaboo for me. Depression kind of just is kind of like his
buddy.
Just right there. Like, hey, if you're going, I want to come too for the party at Adam's head.
Right. Right.
But what's interesting is doctor doubled my dosage of Cymbalta around the time that my wife had to have brain surgery.
Yes.
And understood. I wish that had happened years before, because I was all I needed was more.
Right. Let me tell you one thing. I know we're going to talk G4 and all this stuff, but I got to tell you, I've been stunned. I have a friend in my life dealing with anxiety, and she went to a treatment center to get ketamine treatment.
I've heard about this just recently.
Insanely fast results within 2 sessions. And it's not a magic bullet, right? You still have to go. I think she's on a schedule now. She'll go every 6 to 8 weeks for maintenance for like one more session. But it's just simply ketamine treatment. And it has been instant. So I would look, if you're dealing with anxiety, there's 3 things it does. Depression, anxiety, and eating disorders are the 3 things that it's supposed to be really effective on. So
interesting.
Check it out.
I have depression, anxiety, and the anxiety used to give me an eating disorder because I'm the weirdo that doesn't eat.
You don't eat because you're anxious. Okay.
Yeah, whereas I know a lot of people stress eat. Like,
let me ask you this. Were you one of these guys on TV that, were you like counting calories? Did you care about like,
No.
Okay.
I did towards the latter part of X-Play first run.
Okay.
I got really into going to the gym because that was helping the anxiety as well. I got into boxing.
Sure.
And so I got really into having all of my suits tailored because I actually had a body for the first time in my goddamn life.
Okay.
The sad part is I can't wear those suits anymore.
Well, how old were you then? What do you know? 47, 48 now? So
I'm gonna be 49 next month.
Yeah. So I get it. I'm not gonna go over the place, but I want to ask about that. So, and we're going to get into the Frost thing and all that stuff, but I let me just cut to the chase on that because the idea, and I've met Morgan a couple of times. And I will tell you, the first time I met Morgan, I don't know her that well and I can't find her. I've been trying to get her on this show for ages, but she's off all social media as far as I can tell. I do not know how to get in touch with this woman, or maybe she's just like, fuck you, Jeffy. I don't want to talk to you, but she might be, I don't know. But, the point is, the first time I met her, it was at some Spike TV Awards thing you guys were doing with the Black Eyed Peas playing at some building in LA.
No, that was G4.
Okay,
that
G4,
was our answer to the Spike Award.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a Sony rep was walking me around because I was doing something on the show or something, and they said, "Oh, Jaffe, here's Morgan Webb. She's going to be doing something with you. We're doing a little throw to." I don't fucking know what it was, and it was the most amazing thing because I'm relatively good at seeing through bullshit, but I'm pretty good at seeing through bullshit. But she seemed to me like the gentlest, kindest spirit, and she got up. And she came over and she just gave me a hug. And I don't know if that's how she greets everyone, but that just stuck with me. I was just like, what an odd but very endearing greeting from her. And then I got to sit with her at the Dice Awards. I was in the Geek Sandwich. I had Morgan on one side and Felicia Day on the other side. And we just got to sit and hang out and talk geek shit while we were watching the awards. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the first time I met her. What were you going to say about her though? Is she that genuine?
No, she's very genuine. But obviously being a woman in front of the camera, you're going to get a different type of attention.
Sure.
So I know there's people out there that have said like, oh, she didn't really pay attention to me. It's like, guys, like there's some creepy shit that happens. Even I get creepy shit.
Right, I'm
like,
sure.
well, you're already scraping the barrel. If
That's right.
Shit with me.
So you want to stalk me? I mean, okay, sure.
I have a theory, and this is I'm just speculating here, but
Right.
I know exactly what event you were talking about.
Yeah.
And like, at least for me, I didn't do anything with Morgan. It was me and Kevin. With very, very polyester jackets standing near an oil drum
Okay.
with fire in it.
Okay.
I don't know why this was the aesthetic they went for.
Okay. It's like homelessness.
G4 was kind of 2G4. This is what they were modeling after, like the VGAs.
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember that the VGAs, except for the beginning and the end, are wholly independent of any of the talent that's on MTV.
I think I remember that. Yes.
They kind of push them to the side in favor of true celebrities.
Mhm.
And Kevin and I have been relegated to interviewing people that came across the red carpet.
For VGAs.
No, this was for G4.
Oh, okay.
So let's
G4,
call it,
okay.
And I was already fairly old at this point, and Kevin and I both are pretty good at like, both of us didn't indulge in like the hot thing of the moment. And so who is Sabrina the Teenage Witch?
Oh yeah, Melissa Joan Hart.
Joan Hart.
Yeah.
So people like that were coming through. I had no clue who they were.
Right.
And they had no clue why they were there. I'm assuming their manager or agent told them to come through. There was absolutely no gaming stuff that we could actually talk about.
Right.
The only fun part I remember, 2 fun parts, was the young lady who played Winnie on the Wonder Years.
Oh,
show
yeah.
I did watch.
Danica McKellar or something like that. Yeah.
Who was a math genius. And so it's like, okay, we have to talk math.
Right.
And Jay from Bob and Silent.
Jason Mewes.
Yeah, Jason Mewes, which was an absolute blast. But it was just one of those, we didn't know why we were there. No one had really explained it. Everything was awkward and uncomfortable. And so there might have been such a happy moment for Morgan to have seen an actual human being from the game industry who actually deserved to be there and get accolades.
Got it. I was just like, oh,
that's a long way of getting to that answer.
Because the older you get, I'm sure you find this as well, the fewer things burn into your brain and stick with you. It's got to be something really like either, God forbid, tragic or just like, and that's a moment that for whatever, I just think because she just seemed so kind and so genuine, I was like, I like this person. She's pretty cool.
Also, we really like that God of War game you made a little ways back.
Yeah, I made that work on that while ago.
It was one that was popular around
the kids liked it. it.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, going back to the eating disorder, though. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
I literally have ADD. I've been diagnosed. I take meds. Just roll with it, baby. But if you can. But I wonder about that. Like, if you wonder about Morgan Webb, if you wonder about Olivia Munn, a lot, there was something that Frost had said, and this goes into the bigger question, or a bigger question about, and I liked a lot of the rant she got shit for. I would bet.
I love that rant.
I would bet if there is a game, the seal. I would bet if there's a game called Who's More Progressive, I might win over you. I could be wrong, but I might.
You might be wrong.
I might.
Depends in certain categories.
Yeah, that's probably true. But the one thing I didn't agree with her, and maybe I'm just wrong, but from an audience perspective, as much as I have great respect for Olivia Munn, I don't know her that well, and Morgan, I know her a little better. I go, you can't tell me part of their hiring wasn't because they happened to be attractive women. I mean, that had to have factored into it, right?
I can't, and just to be fair, I don't know. I wasn't party to that.
Okay, but intellectually, logically,
it's yeah. I mean, there's factors there. I have to assume but
that doesn't mean it's carte blanche to say anything mean or negative or at all.
I do know that certain aspects of what Frost was responding to, because I bore witness to this.
Yeah.
I'm always very careful about speaking for other people I've worked with. Because,
I understood.
Is that people would say horrible things to Frost in comparison to Olivia or Morgan. And so what I imagine you heard there was less the substance of what you addressed, even though it probably sounded that way to you,
right? Than
a kind of a response to a dialogue that was already in process. You just weren't party to that dialogue.
Well, she said, which was interesting, and I don't know, because I know G4 is kind of retooled a little bit, that when you guys were on the air with the new G4, that you guys were dealing with something that I assume the old G4 never had to deal with, which is the live chat that wasn't being filtered necessarily by a producer, but you could see it. And I can't imagine that's, it probably makes for good TV, but it probably doesn't make for good self-esteem.
Well, you know what? It's interesting because I'm working with people who are much younger than me.
Yes.
Who probably, I'm making an assumption here, who probably some degree of real-time or near real-time chat or commenting probably was already there from the time they started working in front of the camera. That option was there. Whereas I started where it was like the next day.
Right. And you still had message boards, so you could at least go on and read.
Yeah. But that was the first time you could even get this raw, unfiltered, prior to that, it was letters to the editor.
Yeah, that's right.
Usually there was somebody else screening those because who wants to read?
Right.
Handwriting,
yes.
much less. And that was really jarring at the time. I mean, I remember my first death threat was right after Columbine, because I was apparently responsible for it. Because I talked about video games.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the irony was probably lost on the person sending the death threat. It's
most people who send death threats,
yeah.
If they could spell irony, that would be an.
Have you gotten a lot of death threats?
Ones that I consider legitimate, not really.
Yeah.
Ones that, yeah, well, threats, wishing me dead, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I get them. Having said that, and I'll just be frank with you, I fully I'm allowing for like 15% chance that my life will end at some crazy gamer with a gun.
It's like, the end of talk radio. If you ever saw talk radio from Oliver Stone.
Yeah. The Eric Bogosian. That actually used to be a stage play.
Yes.
Bogosian did.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly. I mean, you think trust me, I think that too. But at the same time, I've always been like, if you're going to send a death threat, you're probably not that serious. It's not like Lee Harvey Oswald's like, hey, just so you know, I mean, really, come on, just, they're going to do it. You're sending a death threat. You're not the brightest bulb.
Yeah, I would say that, what I find riskier or more unsettling are it's more the instigators that start to misconstrue things I've said, start to sort of amplify things.
Right.
And that's going to reach somebody who's not as good in the head. Obviously, he's an American, which means he probably has access to guns. Because, I mean, look, at the end of the day, we could probably talk about this now or at some later part.
It's all over. We're
on. I mean, if I was in politics and when I actually say things that are just straight political, I actually expect and anticipate a level of furious pushback.
You mean because of what you say?
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to games, and I see something that is equal or sometimes even more intense in its fervor, like that's some serious detachment from reality.
You have to ask yourself how much of it, and I've struggled with this because I used to think, well, this all has to be trolling. And let's assume conservatively you can say, okay, 70% of it's trolling. It's still 30% of these motherfuckers are serious.
Right, exactly.
It's insane.
A handful of, I mean, it's like you and I, our livelihoods are predicated on video games.
Yes.
And I can easily say, I think neither you nor I can ever care that much about video games. Probably the most death threats I got, now that I remember, is when I was at Rev 3. And I made a comment. I had gone to a Microsoft showcase of their the Xbone. What the hell was that called?
Microsoft
One. The Xbox One.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's prior to the launch of the Xbox One. And obviously, the PlayStation 4 is going to be launching within a week of that as well.
Right.
I went there and I saw Gladius.
Okay.
A completely forgettable, not very good game.
Yep.
Based on what's that game called? God of War.
Yep.
It's now. I looked at it and it was a good-looking game. Like it had some really nice lighting. I mean, the big thing was like these overdone lighting effects that shine off the Gladius itself and the helmets and all the Roman shit. And someone mentioned to me, I don't know if it was a Microsoft rep or not, that it wasn't 1080p. That it was
not 1080p. Okay.
It was somewhere in between 720 and 1080.
Okay.
And I had this. I was like, that's interesting because it definitely, other than Forza, was the most attractive game I had seen at the showcase.
Right.
And so I did a SESSLER. It was called SESSLER something. It was one of my soapboxes where I kind of was like, you got to kind of get off this resolution tip. I did see frame rate. I said, gotta get off the resolution tip because games can look good. It's a lot of it's the aesthetic and things like that. That if you're just caring about the numbers, like you're kind of missing the forest for the trees here.
I think so. Yeah.
This was not intended as a controversial statement.
Right.
And then I got death threats because I was apparently saying bad things about Sony. Sony fanboys. Like, that's the one thing, and I think it's funny. If anyone, I really don't have a bias. I love Sony stuff, but if I ever show a bias, it's because Xbox buyers tend to act like adults. And that Sony people, like, it's like they're out there, like that Sony Defense Force that's out there.
I agree with that, but I've seen it on both sides. It's pathetic.
You probably,
it's pathetic.
And I imagine people make associations between you and Sony, so you probably get even more of it.
Yeah.
Whereas where there's still so many people that
people keep thinking I get money from Microsoft because I love Game Pass. And I'm just like, I would love to take money from Microsoft for shilling Game Pass because I genuinely love it. But
we would be doing so well if we did that.
I know. It's fine. Phil Spencer, you know how to find me? Give me some fucking money.
But like, I'm talking serious threats. It was just like everything went haywire.
So let me ask this about that, because let's assume like, okay, the 70% trolls, whatever, and I don't know if that percentage is correct, but let's just take the percentage of them that are genuinely serious. There is on one hand, I'm with you 100% in that I'm like these fucking crazy motherfuckers. It's fun to pick on them. It's fun to be mad at them because they're crazy and they're making death threats. On the flip side, you have to wonder, are they mentally well? Is there a need for a little bit of sympathy, a little bit of outreach or whatever? Only because it's like, you're really detached, man, from reality. Can I help you in some way? But
the full detachment from reality is kind of there. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you asked me this question 10 years ago, I would be more in line with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Since 2016, actually since 2014, Gamergate, I'm less inclined to think that way. Because
you have gotten more militant. That's true. Keep going. Sorry.
Well, but it's also what I saw in that mob is a form of populism, a form of populist entitlement that is very similar in its philosophy to that of Trumpism, which is a sense of persistent grievance, revanchist motivation.
Yes.
And this goes to such things as, I spent $60, I own your ass. Or these are the same people, and these people probably that like those people that you never go to dinner with anymore because they're the ones that just seem obsessed with lording it over the poor server. Like, well, I'm gonna take that off the tip. I'm going to take that off the tip. These people who have very, 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 very little in their lives, they don't want to admit it, and so they try to overcome it in these obnoxious ways possible. That's where my lack of tolerance for it comes in, because it's part and parcel, I think, to a larger sociological and political. Are we going to lose the Zoom? It says remaining meeting time of 10 minutes.
Yeah, keep going. I'm going to subscribe. I thought I already paid for it. Keep going, Adam. Let's go. We got 10 minutes. Let's do it. It's like broadcast news.
As a result, I just don't have the tolerance for it anymore. And I think it's also, there's actually many opportunities where I don't take the bait. Sometimes I'm just in that mood.
Okay.
But sometimes I do it because I'm going to say something that might get me in trouble here.
Okay.
I think sometimes when people, and this is a very, very understandable, I don't fault someone for doing it.
Okay.
But when suddenly the horde comes upon you and you're like, the horde, you kind of publicly say, I can't believe what they're doing. And you almost kind of admit the harm, the distress that they're causing you.
Okay.
That's what they want. It goes back to Adam Serwer from The Atlantic, his famous quote about Trump, the cruelty is the point. That's it. They want the blood. And I sometimes do it to be performative. To remind people, punch back.
Right.
And I think that's the frustration a lot of Democrats have with Biden right now. You want to see some punches thrown the way that they've happened to us. You see what's happening with Roe v. Wade. It's that's why I like what Gavin Newsom's doing, where it's now we can sue gun manufacturers.
I know. I saw that.
Someone gets shot. It's those things have a place. It's kind of like what the Beatles were to the sexual awakening of young women in 1960s America. It's just I could use some bread and some circuses.
Right.
Because it makes you feel like someone's catering to you.
Well, do you think, because I'm like I said, I'm not checking the chat right now, but it would, I will, but it would stun me if these guys, weren't out there saying, disagreeing. I know there are those people that are absolutely like that. And I love the idea of punching back. And as a super progressive guy. I would prefer to vote independent, but I vote Democrat 99.9% of the time. I think the Democrats have great ideas in a lot of ways, but they're terrible politicians compared to the Republicans.
Yeah.
100% I agree with you. But when you actually ask these folks face to face, like I talk to them all the time, I'm stunned by the number of right-wing folks I have in my audience, because I'm just like,
yeah, I learned that.
Yeah, I was like, really? You know, but what, you know, there, it does go to that basket of deplorables thing. I think so many of them are so used to being looked down on that, you know, it's almost like everybody has a grievance, and they're like, well, we're doing it because of this. And we're like, well, we're doing it because of this. And I don't know if it's solvable. I mean, it may just be, you can't solve tribalism.
I think it's also that if you like authoritarian, if you're suddenly authoritarian curious,
right? Okay.
I don't think that like you can reel someone back in. And if they're gonna sort of like go, I don't like this, that's their own special journey. And it's one that is not going to be facilitated by someone like me.
Right.
But I do think that actions have costs.
I think so, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's why some people like to say that what I said was different than what I said. I said that I have no interest in my family members who are Republican and voted for Trump, that I don't plan to go see them ever again for the rest of my life.
You did. You said this.
Yeah, I tweeted it back in 2016.
Okay.
And that I think I made something really snide, like, you know, I'll just like, as all of that's happening, maybe I'll be sipping something bubbly. People have turned that into, you want us dead. I'm like, I didn't say that. But what I'm saying is that I'm not telling people what they need to believe. But if you're going to believe that and openly put it into my face,
right?
Well, I am going to, as I like to say, it's like, if you're going to walk around in the jackboots, it's fair for me to think that you might have an armband.
Yeah. What did you say? You said something the other day. I have it up on Twitter. It was pretty evocative, not evocative. It was pretty inflammatory. But you said you were talking about 1/4 of the Republicans. We will get to games in G4. I know people are like, what the fuck? But I'm only distracted a little because I'm trying to get this license.
Oh, you mean that 1/4 of Republicans?
1/4 of Republicans were against mixed race marriage. And it was like, what? And that's crazy. And you tweeted, though, this is why if someone identifies as a Republican Christian or wears an American flag, I assume they're racist, homophobic, misogynistic, anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim, and anti-science. So was that performative, or do you genuinely feel that way?
That one's interesting. I do feel that way. Okay. Also, I am in a mixed race marriage.
Okay.
So like that one, it's actually
okay,
rare.
Fair.
It's fairly rare that Republicans actually have a policy that would have a direct impact on my life.
Understood.
Not just the moral abrogation, which is every policy that they have, or I'm like, well, fuck, that's not good.
Right.
Also, in the piece, it was based on a Morning Consult poll, which is the one that Politico uses.
Yes.
And they were shocked actually to see that result. The majority of them identified as Christian. Primarily fundamentalist, evangelical, nationalist, whatever that is. And I think anyone knows, on Twitter especially, if there's an American flag, if your bio says Christian, and most likely if it says Republican, the likelihood you're going to go through that feed and see one, if not all of those values espoused, is pretty high. I didn't actually consider that to be inflammatory. I think it's pretty much par for the course.
I mean, I don't disagree.
I think it's existential. Insofar as I don't think that myself, and God forbid anybody of color, a woman, or anybody who's infinitely more marginalized than I am, should have to carry on the burden of finding out if this person is the exception to the rule when the rule is so well established.
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate that. I mean, because
I allow for the fact that someone might be different, but I'm not going to go like, scratching to find the creamy center of thoughtfulness.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so I want to go back briefly though. Okay, so when you're saying that Frosk was, I know you're like, dude, what? We're back to Frosk. You're. I'm going to edit all this. It'll make sense. I promise. It'll be like George Lucas after he shot Star Wars. It's like his wife comes in and saves everything. But so you're saying you can't really speak to the fact, although it seems obvious that some of the women hired in the previous G4 were done. That at least in part was they were easy on the eyes. Okay, so And obviously that doesn't forgive any bad behavior or no one. I would never suggest that at all. It's horrible. But the two questions I have about that, when you were with Morgan, who, you know, I mean, she's, you know, she's in Maxim. She sells all that stuff as part of her brand. When Kevin was with Olivia, I'm very curious about this, because when I watched y'all's shows, I got a brother-sister vibe from both pairings. Was that a conscious, like, how much of this was like, we don't want to see any kind of chemistry, assuming there was or wasn't, I don't know, because the viewer would probably go, you know what I'm saying? Like, we want to look at Morgan as our girlfriend. We don't like the fact that Adam and her are flirting. You guys never came off as anything other than brother-sister.
Yeah. What's interesting is that was not a conscious decision. But I think it's something that is fairly typical for paired hosts.
Okay.
Joe Scarborough and Zabriskie.
Right, yeah. If you don't know, they were hosting a show and they got married. But sorry.
But it's an interesting question, because you pointed something out that I immediately recognized, but at no point did we say, let's do this.
Right.
I think it's funnier that way. It's less. It's not Cheers. It's not a Sam and Diane thing.
Okay.
It's great for scripted television, but that's just not. You know, part of the thing, and TED TV actually was a real challenge for this. Is, you know, this is, once again, but TED TV predates video on the internet by a handful of years. But what it also predated was that weird immediacy of the sort of the performer to the audience, especially what Leah Laporte and people were doing on the screensavers.
Right. Of
course.
Really,
really collapsed that. And by doing that, you then, you know, if there was a sense of something that wasn't real, that there was a relationship or something like that,
okay,
I think it would give really strange signals. Like, you know that there are people who actually would freak out about soap operas and would find the actor and treat them as the character and let them know who's cheating behind their back. This is a true thing. This would happen.
Really?
Yeah. Talk about unhinged people. It's not just in games.
Right. That's pretty fucking unhinged.
That it's more fun that way. And now that's how we cared for each other. Is, you know, that's kind of, you know. Also remember, we loved that whole team, and when we.
Oh my God. It's okay. Hang on. I'm trying to fucking subscribe to Zoom. Adam SESSLER, you old knucklehead. Hang on. God damn it. God damn it, Maverick. What a pain in the ass. I was all set. If you're listening and you're not watching, we lost the feed, but don't worry, it's coming right back. Adam's like, what the fuck have I gotten into? Just, you know what? Just fucking trust me, Adam SESSLER. What did he sign in as? You guys are like, this is super professional. This would not happen on G4. Oh, I know. Oh, I fucking know. All right, here we go. Add friend. Let me call. Okay. In the meantime, chat, how's it going? Okay, let me call Adam. Call. Okay. There we go. I can hear you. Can you see me? I can't see you yet, but I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me, Adam?
Yep, can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Is your camera on? Can we see you?
Oh, you can't see me?
Mm-mm.
That's weird. It's reading.
It may have if your Zoom call is still open, it may be your camera may being shared with your Zoom call.
Settings for this. It's been a while since I've used.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I was trying while we were talking to like resubscribe to Zoom.
Or did you freeze?
I'm here. I
think you froze up.
Okay. All right. It's not letting me call you. I wonder why. Now, you may wonder.
All right, I'm back.
Okay.
Can you?
I cannot see you. I can hear you good though, and if it becomes an audio, it becomes an audio. Fuck it. You see, Adam.
You want to try to call me? That's the one thing I was wondering.
Didn't I try to call you? Oh no! What is happening? All right, I'm going to do a Google Hangout. Hang on. Fuck this noise. Goodness. All right, hang on, fellas. Google Chat. All right, whatever. Now you can sit there at home and you can say, well, Jaffe, what the fuck is going on? Just relax the goddamn backstory, hang the fuck on. You're gonna be fine. You'll get your interview. You don't understand. You don't understand. Message request, start, create a space. All right. Okay, here we go. What is your email? I'm not gonna say it. Oh, I gotta move this off the screen though. I don't want anybody to see your email. All right. Yes, that's my desktop. Fuck you. Because, you know, I have ADD. What do you want from me? All right, so Adam says he needs a couple of minutes, but let me get this email to him first. There we go. Okay. So when Adam is back on, this should work. Let me go to the chat in the meantime. Thanks for hanging in there, fellas. I do appreciate your patience. I don't know what to tell you. All I'm fucking saying to you is, you know, shit sometimes goes south. What do you want from me? But here's what I want to say, though. Here's what I want. Fuck you, Tripopotamus, whatever the fuck your name is. Here's what I want to say, though. A lot of you guys that are coming in at Adam, and you're gonna have a chance to chat with him. I would be curious what it is that you guys take issue with. I don't really see, you know, he's got different opinions, but all right, let's see if Adam is back and we will pick up. And if there's anything specifically that you are hoping, okay, hang on. Dane Barnes. Hey, Dane Barnes. Hey, man, how are you? I agree. Adam's awesome. Hello, Silent Assassin. Good to see you. Thank you, Acab. I appreciate it. What's in your folder named Nasty Shit? Do I have a folder named Nasty Shit? Hang on. I'll tell you in a minute. Add people. I'm sending it to that email that you sent me. Hang on. I'm telling you guys, there is no fucking there is no porn tab. I don't know why. I don't understand kids today who seem to save porn. I don't really get that. All right, well, let's try this. Let's try this.
All right.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you see me?
I cannot see you, but I can hear you, and that may be all we're gonna get.
Hold on.
Yep.
Does that work?
It's doing little dots on my screen, like it's
Yeah.
spinning
I
around.
think we did it.
What do you mean? We did what?
I think you're going to get the video.
Oh, it's coming.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, in the meantime, let's keep chatting. I apologize about that. Yeah, Zoom. I haven't done an interview in a while, and I honestly had forgotten to upgrade my Zoom. I forgot I needed to, and then it just ended up dying before I had a chance. So I do apologize, Adam SESSLER. I know you're used to working with pros. Well, that's not me, baby. So
no, I worked at G4. No, there was talented people there.
Oh, I know. I remember it was like a little fucking machine when I went in there. I was impressed, actually. It was pretty cool. So okay. I guess where I was going with the questioning about the women there and things like that at G4, I'm fascinated because there you are. Okay, I see you now. You're frozen, but I see you.
There we go.
Okay. I'm fascinated because it feels like I hear all of this stuff, like you were saying, eating disorders, and I mean, did the women feel?
It's me. I am not speaking for anyone else.
I know. I know.
Mine was anxiety. Yeah.
But did you find that the women were feeling pressured from management to kind of look a certain way, or not gain weight or lose weight or anything, or it wasn't that kind of Hollywood scene?
The only way I might know about something like that is wardrobe.
Okay.
Yeah, there were ever so often, I'm not going to name names, just keep it a little bit vague.
Sure,
you
of course.
Tell that I got the sense that wardrobe had been instructed to do things.
Okay.
Beyond that definitely, I think also, if something like that was happening, they were smart enough to know never to give me a whiff of it, because I was the kind of person that would get my pitchfork and my torch and start to cut shit.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, so then...
Having said that, for matters like wardrobe and Adam, it's like, just make people not turn it off.
Fair. I mean, there is a precedent of the hot girl, and I'm not calling you or Kevin schlubby husband, but there is that kind of stereotype. And I mean, again, like you're saying, how much was conscious, I don't know, but it's almost, I'm fascinated by it as a designer and as somebody who's watching the new G4 and watching you guys shift and adjust based on how things are going. And it's like, it would not strike me as surprising to learn that even subconsciously there was a sense of, that dynamic is really fucking crucial, and we want to make sure we protect it. And so when you guys started the new G4, because I've read a bunch of interviews, and I read there was a great article in Complex when you guys were about to take off and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they had this quote that I thought, I don't know if you found it insulting or not, but I thought it was really a good quote, though. It says, the SESSLER of X-Play of old felt like a wrestling persona, while his work outside of G4 felt more nuanced. Those YouTube videos from the last few months, meaning the ones that you were putting up when X-Play New was launching, are indicative of how X-Play New SESSLER will function. So when you guys started the new G4, was that a conscious challenge of going, who is our audience now? Because the culture has shifted, but your old audience clearly are still, there's a lot of people that wanted the sex and the silliness and didn't want the kind of Frosk stuff. And a younger generation probably hears Frosk and says, fuck yeah, she's awesome.
It's interesting. Like, there's many layers to that question. But the key one is things changed just in format. So Old X-Play was, I think it was always a half-hour show. I don't think we ever really did an hour show, which is actually 24 and a half minutes when you account for commercials. And then you kind of structure the show around those commercial breaks. You have your A block, your B block, and your C block. Very traditional television in that regard. And it was scripted. It was more scripted than anything else I've ever done. And that's a good thing. There were jokes and there was silliness and there were things like that. But it was also very, 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 very political. Sometimes it was subtle-ish, and sometimes it was actually quite overt.
The old X-Play you're saying was political?
Oh yeah,
Really?
There were jokes in the reviews and all that kind of stuff. Okay. The kids were watching it, and it probably went over their head a lot.
Okay.
But yeah. Now, in the interim, I did Rev 3. Yes. That was straight YouTube. Now, the YouTube algorithm likes length. It likes, and you have a luxury of length. I'm no longer, there used to be, one of the big things on Old X-Play was how long are the reviews? It would change all the time. All reviews had to be a minute and a half, except for really, really, really big games. Okay. Then it was, okay, all reviews could be 3 minutes and a half, and then it would change again, again, and again. The minute you hit YouTube, it's like, fuck it.
Right.
Be as long as you want it to be. And then, there was also a certain length at which the algorithm is going to like you more. That changes everything. Shtick becomes more sticky for 7 minutes, whereas in 3 minutes, definitely 1.5 minutes, that can be kind of the thing you lead with. Okay. You can't do it as much. So, okay, we get to do G4. Yes, there's a TV component to it, but there's a very large streaming and YouTube component, and those rules still apply. And so that kind of interaction, that kind of stuff you can't do it, you got to do it differently. And then you add on the fact that there's a whole other value system out there. There are jokes we did on old G4 that weren't good enough jokes. I'm not going to do them again now and deal with the grief that's going to come with that.
Right.
Values have changed. And so and that changes as well. But a lot of the old complaints, we wanted to be like this, we wanted to be like this, there's two things I see there. And unfortunately, I'm going to drag everything back to politics. It was no different than make X-Play great again. It was one of my favorite authors is William Burroughs, and he always considered nostalgia to be something of a corrosive virus.
It probably is, but it's so fucking delightful. Yeah. But that's the danger.
That there were memories of the show that it was a show I don't recall. It was, and people wanted a thing that never was there.
I understand.
It's just the danger of bringing a brand back. Also, as a business entity, you want to bring in new people.
Right.
No one ever said the thing that was so preeminent at old G4, which was 18 to 35 males.
Right. That's what you needed, but that's not what you got, right?
I believe it's changed a little bit more to just 18 to 35. They tend to be more single. They tend to have disposable income. That is advertising like Mata. And so you need to have younger people. And so you got to also be sort of cognizant of what is the flavor of the day? What is not the flavor of the day? It's another thing to be as well. And so it's just there were just sort of all of those things, and I was getting embarrassed because I was seeing comments that were clearly like, I could have shot somebody on Ventura Boulevard and probably gotten away with it. The way people were looking at me as some kind of symbolic of this old guard, and by virtue of being new. Yeah. There are other people that were really having to they had a much tougher climb.
Right.
Up that hill. And it was something I think more fundamental than that. And then with I guess we're calling it the frost thing. You took something that was already some fairly dry kindling.
Yeah.
But it was dry kindling that was waiting for the match.
Which was what? The dry kindling was, we're not what you thought we were going to be based on your nostalgia goggles.
Yeah, and it was people like, we want this isn't it. And then, God, politics and games. I mean, since X-Play went off the air, since the rise of Gamergate, since the rise of the internet and trying to be thoughtful, this has become so much more of a touchstone. Even though X-Play, I mean, my review of Resident Evil 5 very much pointed out there's something wrong with this game.
Right. You're talking about the suggested racism in the game.
Well, and also, if you really go back to it, it deals with almost every colonial anxiety of people with dark skin, like throughout all of history. Okay. And if it was dealt with more deftly, I might have found it brilliant. It wasn't. Okay. It dealt with deftly, nor was it brilliant by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay.
There were things like that there. We were already dealing with it. Everyone had conveniently decided to forget that. And they saw this as yet another intrusion that was preventing the show from being the show that everyone imagined it was supposed to be. And then also there are just people who hate women that love games. Like that Venn diagram is really appallingly. And what they really don't hate are women who call them out on it. And it's just, and then it got into the hands of a certain YouTube channel that's quite popular with the manga crowd. I think it's called The Quickening or something.
Oh, The Quartering. The Quartering.
Got it.
I know that.
The Quickening is that Highlander movie, isn't it?
I don't know.
I think that was the second Highlander
You're right.
movie.
Yes, The Quartering. If you saw The Quartering and Highlander together, you wouldn't be confused. You'd go, oh, I know the difference now. Yeah.
They were doing lots of videos about that. And so what happened was kind of an artificial amplification of something that probably in a different era would have burned itself out within 48 hours.
Okay. So did it have an impact? I mean, a lot of people, because G4, correct me if I'm wrong, G4 has kind of gone in 3 different phases. There was your launch phase, and then and maybe this is wrong, but from an outside point of view, it feels like after the Frost thing, someone at G4 on high said, dial it back a little bit. And then you guys are now coming back with X-Play Plus. You're back on as of July 12th. SESSLER Soapbox is back. I mean, was there a conscious adjusting the ship because of that, or that had nothing to do with it?
I think that had very little to do with it. And just so everyone knows, I am not participating with the show to the degree I was prior to, I think, February this year. Yeah. That has almost everything to do with the fact that my wife had brain surgery. And this was after a pretty rough year where I had back surgery. You had back surgery, right. And then, in addition, pandemic. I'll just be frank, and I had a nervous breakdown.
What is that? Whoa, hang on. What does that mean? I know what it means, but how did it manifest? I'm very curious. Did you know you were having one? Were you driving and you just, what happened?
The anxiety attack just boom. And it was the sense that I didn't even know if I could. Going in front of the camera was something that was both terrifying and almost impossible in a non-emotional way. Like I just felt like I didn't have it anymore. And really? I don't know if you've talked to other performers. Well, you've definitely dealt with performers, like in your line of stuff. Is that to perform when you feel you can't? Like that is like the worst sensation in the world. I've never really experienced it. It happened a couple of times where to get over jet lag, I think I took something and like my brain just wasn't as sharp. Because like a lot of the stuff we did, we kind of did right there. And it was just, I realized that like I had to start looking at life differently. There was, my wife almost died. I wasn't healthy. Like the smoking and the drinking was getting, was self-medicating and taking care of myself. It's like, I need to hit a pause button and start to get my shit together, which is what I did. And part of getting the shit together is there are things I want to do in life that I haven't really, I kept on thinking, okay, once I get over the crest of that hill, I'll do the thing. I want to write a book or two.
I'm not surprised you want to write a book, because
Yeah.
I saw your reading list. Did you read 50 books in the last couple months?
I think now I've hit around 50. I've been trying to read through every novel of Henry James. I read through every novel of Toni Morrison. And I just finished this morning, I finished reading every Bond novel.
Well, I mean, those aren't real books, Adam. But I mean, the other books are.
They are real books, trust me.
I know.
Henry James is like
I know those are real books. I meant the Ian Fleming.
He was prolific. Oh yeah, the Ian Fleming. Oh my God, I read those in a day, in half a day, in a quarter of a day.
But so you want to write? You want to write fiction or nonfiction?
Both. I mean, I think the first thing I want to do is kind of like some essays that are somewhat autobiographical about politics and games and stuff like that. There's a couple novels I've always wanted. I want to do my version of a detective novel.
Okay.
I've always had this dream of a detective novel that takes place in San Francisco, but it's a slightly different one. It has too many detectives in it. I just say, like, it's kind of like gaming culture, but it's detective culture.
Okay.
And everyone has their different philosophy of detectiveness. Maybe they're indie detectives.
Right.
Corporate detectives. I haven't worked it up. But for whatever reason, I want to take place in 1976 during the events of the Philip Kaufman version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which also takes place. I like the idea of like trying to solve a mystery, because I love solving mysteries and figuring out the truth. But guess what? That truth is probably not going to mean all that much if everyone around you is becoming the same person.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, that's okay. So that's your dream career that you're trying to get off the ground, along with what's happening at Export.
And I want to travel. I want to see things. I'm actually taking a trip with my dad to Greece and Turkey in about a month. It's being led by a professor from University of Virginia who specializes in the Greek origins of American democracy. Sort of like
wow. Okay.
Yeah. But still, we're going to see Crete and all those kind of cool places. Go see Troy and spend some time in Istanbul. Because like, especially with the pandemic, but even before that, I was working too much, and it's just like I kind of want to start doing the living of life part.
Okay.
Rather than doing all that stuff, thinking the living of life part is just around the corner.
Will come eventually. Well, okay, so the you're doing less on G4. You're still doing SESSLER Soapbox. I did see you came back, but you're, I think you called it like you're like in the uncle capacity. You'll show up and kind of stir shit up and leave and come back, later, which I thought was.
I leave right before the crying and the pooping starts.
That's
like
right.
Every good uncle that's out there.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I guess then the question is, do you think you've outgrown the shtick of do you think you can fit in G4 anymore? Or better yet, more important question is that you anymore? There's something you said, I think you were doing an interview with Kevin. I don't remember who you were talking to, but you said, the only time you're confident is when you're on camera. Now that was a while ago. I don't know if that's changed.
I still, since I took my break, therapy and pills, good pills, legal pills, that is slightly different.
Okay.
But yes, the only time, there's two reasons I would feel confident, and only feel confident in front of the camera, is that at that moment, I can clear my head of all the other thoughts, all the questioning thoughts, things like that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I don't even do it perfectly, but like, it's like me, the camera. That's why I like live TV, because you're even more focused.
Right.
Right. All of a sudden it's like, you have to just engage your spidey senses to the moment. And so did I do that poorly, or, oh my God, was that conversation awkward? All of those things finally get to go by the wayside. And so, I'm really confident. And it's the one thing I know I can do.
Okay.
Just about everything else, I can find a way to question my aptitude for it.
Okay.
It's the other reason why I love boxing so much, because you're in for 3 minutes
in the zone, keeping
your arms up, either shadow boxing or using the speed bag. It's like, it hurts. Like I could finally sort of wipe my brain of all of those things. Right. I feel better now. I don't know how much I have to feel confident about, but.
So when you go on to G4 now, do you feel though like is it still your because I mean there's let's be frank, there's a lot of younger people on there. Is that weird? Is that intimidating?
It's not weird. I actually really like it.
Okay.
Because I'm fascinated by it.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think I should be there all the time? No, because I'm the old guy. Mm-hmm. But I love the idea of stopping in, checking in on people, talking about things. I like the stuff off camera. I loved having those conversations because I'm like, wow, just I could see how differently people were looking at sort of games and other aspects of pop culture. And these are the primary consumers now.
Yeah.
I think it's very important to know that. I mean, but it's also, it's like, it's my favorite thing is interviewing because I like finding things. I just, things are interesting to me. A difference of opinion is actually very interesting to me as long as it isn't threatening my existence. Right. So like if I really, really love a movie and someone doesn't, I'm more interested to find out why, to see that different perspective than I am to say like, oh God, no, I will prove to you a movie was good. I don't
Right.
I still liked it. And that's why I love doing interviews about video games. And sometimes I love doing interviews about games I had no interest in. There was one, it was one of the last things I did at Rev 3. Oh, what was the name of the MMO driving game from Ubisoft? The Club?
The Club, yes, they had a second one.
Yeah,
I think it was the Club. I think it was. Yeah. I know what you're talking about, though. They had a lot of different
driving games. Yeah. I don't drive. Yeah, Forza is the one that I usually can play with the longest.
Okay.
But I was doing the interview with him, and it was a demo thing. And I didn't realize there was story mode, so I played a little bit of the story mode, and I'm like, this is interesting. And so I sat down with him, and I was like, hey, playing your game reminded me of Point Break, where there seems to be a world where there's a lot of people that seem way too into cars. Okay. Just like in Point Break, it's like, wow, there's a lot of people that are way too into surfing.
Yeah.
And then he turned around and goes, that's exactly what our inspiration was. And then we just started talking about narrative strategy and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, I kind of knew that this game wasn't probably going to be awesome.
Right.
That I probably wasn't going to play it. But there was a fun angle to be able to have that conversation with. And that's what I loved about like talking with everybody there and hearing that difference of opinion. But also, if anything was an issue, it's that I hated the fact that no matter what I said, it was given more value than what anybody else said.
Because you
and that really, it's like I don't. It's like one of those superheroes. I don't know, that like doesn't fully understand the power and like they keep on punching holes through walls or something like that. It's like that. If there was one thing that made me uncomfortable, it was that I was bringing more than I wanted to bring to the table, and I believe look the fact it wasn't like any of those people who are hosting there. Someone didn't run their name past me, and I didn't go fuck yeah. Right. So and there would always be these ones where people would like try to prop me up by insulting one of them, and it's like I have always been fascinated by that. Do you think I don't like these people? I like these people a lot, and that stuff would bother me because I really want the best for all of them. I think they're really smart. I think they're really clever, and I think they bring really unique viewpoints to games rather than just kind of rubbing the back of the audience, going like, "Oh, I know." The new God of War will be the best game of the year. We promise you. We'll give it game of the year.
Well, it is. It reminds me. I don't know if you ever saw Jim Carrey when he was hosting SNL this one time, and he was doing the monologue, and it was the part of his career he had done Man in the Moon, and he was trying to break out of sort of the Ace Ventura thing. And there was a guy in the audience. It was a plant, of course, and he's just like, do the where you talk out of your butt and do this and do that. He's like, I know that one, and it was so funny, but it was also so tragic because on one hand, it's hard to feel bad for someone as successful and well off and taken care of in our society as Jim Carrey. And at the same time, as a creative, you're like, you can get stuck sometimes. And I think with G4, I get what you mean. It reminds me of like Sony SOCOM. It's like there comes a point where a brand should just die, because the baggage of it, is an impossible thing to overcome. And so do you think G4 has turned the corner now where the people who want to shit on it are kind of bored and they've gone and moved on, and now you guys are building a new group of fans like you need to?
I think so. And another thing, kind of going back to those changes, I meant to say I had a nervous breakdown, so I can't actually talk to a lot of the changes that happened because I really wasn't party to any of it.
Right.
I mean, the network was designed and launched during a pandemic.
Right.
And sometimes, and this is true even without a pandemic, it is so typical that you kind of work so hard to get to a launch, and it's like launching a game, especially a multiplayer game.
Yeah.
You can only do so much until enough people are playing it, and you can go, oh shit.
Right.
We kind of got to start to tweak that and tweak that and tweak that. And so that was always kind of an assumed stage that was going to happen.
That's great. I didn't know TV worked that way, but that's great to know because, games, you've got to have runway to tweak because you don't really know until it's out.
Well, remember, and the G4 and Tech TV aren't normal television. They're really, or at least old G4. I would even say that about new G4. They're more in line with like a Fox News or MSNBC than they are with an NBC or a USA network, in that you don't have these discrete productions.
Yeah, it's more like old MTV used to be.
Yeah, it's like old MTV. And so it's like what you're doing at the 6 o'clock hour really can have a reverberation at the 8 o'clock hour, like it wouldn't, elsewhere. And so it actually, once again, it's like game design. Fixing something over there for whatever reason is going to kind of just go and fuck something up on the other end of the map without anyone knowing about it. So.
Right. So do you think that, do you guys, because it was really fascinating when you were talking about television having a very different way to create stickiness, whereas the YouTube algorithm or the Twitch algorithm or whatever, it reports to a different set of requirements. Do you guys have to walk the line and balance, or do you favor the streaming and the internet stuff? And not favor, like, what do you like more, but how do you guide your ship based on two very different definitions of what it needs to be successful?
God, that's not my position. That is the executive producer. But it depends. The streaming will come first because it's live.
Right.
The YouTube kind of came second. And then a weird conglomeration of the two became the television. So with an eye towards how we package the streaming and the other was, we can pull that out, we can pull that out, we can pull that out. There's 24 and a half minutes. So that's kind of where the thinking is coming from. My God, like just even saying that, it's like, there's no way I could have, I am not the organized thinker to do that.
Okay.
I would be like, fix it in post. We'll just scrub the latter half of that out of there. Yeah,
that's right.
We'll do.
Okay. So what I was always curious about is why, like, I mean, you are such a brand and you're so known and you're so, in a good way, polarizing, that I'm always surprised that you haven't gone the Patreon route and just have total control of whatever you want to do, whatever you want to say. I mean, had that ever occurred to you, or it's just like, you're just not interested in that?
Two reasons. You know how like you're sometimes struggling with the Zoom and stuff like that?
Oh, no, I have no idea.
That to a factor of 100.
Okay, fair enough.
That's me. Like everybody did something else in television. Like that's the thing. I mean, the thing I loved about proper television is you have one job. Like that is the point of a film and television production. Like that's the guy that runs that camera. He doesn't do anything else.
And you don't want to get the union yelling at you if you fucking touch something you shouldn't touch.
But after 15 years of doing that, I kind of realized I don't know how to fucking do anything else.
Okay.
And also, you're beholden to a mixture of advertisers and management when you're in television, or say what sort of what G4 is now. Patreon, you're still beholden, and to be honest, you're beholden to a mob. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I gave you the money, I own you, and I actually have a conscience, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. And if I receive money from people, I would feel almost too much pressure. I like the formalism of what I've been doing, whereas that informal, there's not a sense of, here's the money for an unknown quantity. And then that becomes something of debate almost after the fact. And I'm just, I'm uncomfortable with that.
All right.
It's like yeah, it's not a clear transaction, I guess, is what
Gotcha.
I'm saying.
So, I got to ask this: the old G4 had two different times. You know, you viewed it differently. You viewed the old G4, from what I understand, when you guys are. I think you were off Sawtelle or something. You were in Santa Monica, right by Sony. And then you guys moved to that fancy schmancy building on Wilshire with Comcast
Yes.
and all that. And my understanding is the way you describe it is G4 Part 1. I almost romanticize it in my head and think about like MASH or Howard Stern Private Parts, where you guys were doing whatever the fuck you wanted to do, and it was like barely any oversight. And then it became very corporate, and you really lost your love for it, and you lost your enthusiasm for it. The new G4, how were you comfortable that you were going to get more of the former and less of the latter? Like how did they pull you back in when your experience was so negative coming out of G4? Because they fucking fired you in a horrible way.
Yeah. No one associated with that old G4 in management had anything to do with it. Blair Herder was involved. He knew exactly what my reticence would be, and he, with the other people that talked to me, we overcame that. Just so you know, that old building that was on Olympic, that's Riot's headquarters now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And it did become more corporate. We got kind of pushed in with the larger Comcast Entertainment Group, as it was called then.
Right.
That was E-Style, One Network, Golf, maybe.
Yeah, I remember the last time I did X-Play was with you guys and Tim Schafer at that building, and we were waiting. Yeah, we were waiting to go up, and we were sitting in this like lobby out of a rom-com, where, you know, the girl shows up to be the assistant and the Devil Wears Prada. It was all like white walls and TVs embedded into the walls, and it was very not. It was very not G4.
And the problem was, one of the things that was kind of typical of old G4 is we had an idea, we grabbed a camera and we shot it where we were. We couldn't do that there because there were employees of other companies that had not in any way given up any rights to be able to go in front of the camera. Plus, we would be disturbing the important work they had about the Kardashians.
Of course,
But yeah, I know exactly where you were sitting. It used to be really funny. So the area where X-Play was also the casting area for E.
Okay.
So ever so often we would have guests for the show come and sit where you sat, surrounded by probably 15, 20 people who were about to see if they could become a new host for the E channel.
Right.
Which could produce very, very interesting, let's call it just a study in contrasts. Gaming industry.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, right.
And ever so often I would have to be like, I don't know if that's a belt or a skirt. So,
right. It's like, are you someone important I should care about? You know, is what I imagine a lot of these people who were coming in were thinking. You know, it's because it's very.
No. Oh, I always like my heart broke for them because I've gone on auditions and it's just like there's something very strange where like everyone knows what you're there for and they're looking. The person who is auditioning is looking at all these people who are already established. And it's like, it's that classic example of the new person who enters the train carriage, that psychological or sociological. Well, it's like when a new person enters the carriage, the last new person then becomes part of the established order of the carriage.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of like that it's that dynamic taken to a fairly extreme level.
Right. Okay.
God, I hate doing auditions.
Well, when you came to LA, and actually, I guess G4, ZDTV, and stuff started up north, but you basically were. I mean, what was that like when G4 was taking off? You're in LA, you're on TV. Did you get any of the Vinny Chase entourage experience, or that wasn't y'all's experience because it was video games TV? Or was there a bit of like, hey, I'm a famous TV star and I got to play with it for a while?
Tiny bit.
Tiny
bit. Here's like where it would be beneficial was when you interacted with people who played video games.
Okay.
The benefit is the service industry plays video games.
Oh,
Waiters and chefs. And one time, I love telling this story because it's one of the few times I'll burnish my own image because someone else benefited from it.
Right.
My younger brother and I, he lived down in LA for a period of time, and it was his birthday. He was trying to do acting, so like I was actually helping him out and supporting him a little bit. It was his birthday. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to take you out. And like, I was like, I want a steak dinner. And before I knew it was a chain, I was like, oh, let's go to Mastro's in Beverly Hills.
Okay.
I'm like, let's just do it, and what have you. When we get in there, and I don't know if you've ever eaten in Beverly Hills. It didn't occur to me that Mastro's would be like that. You walk in, that person right there at the maitre d' just kind of sizes you up and down. And I saw the sizing. My brother was just wearing whatever the fuck he had on that day. Sized us up and down, and we had it right by the kitchen. And I'm like, fuck. It wasn't a busy night either. Let me point that out.
Right.
And I just felt bad. I didn't care for myself, but it's like my brother's birthday. And they're like, oh. Then about 10 minutes later, the doors to the kitchen swing wide open. Now comes the chef going, Adam SESSLER. Oh my God. And we just sat there and we talked games. I introduced him to his brother. I said it was his birthday. And he goes, you're going to have a great night here tonight. 5 minutes later, said maitre d' shows up, going, I am so sorry. I had no idea who you were.
Oh, what a dick.
We'll be taking care of you. We'll be taking care of you this night. So everything was on the house. We had this massive fruit a la mer platter on top of the steaks and everything, and it all worked out just fine. But it would only happen in rare instances like that. Right. What was funny is when I moved back to San Francisco.
Right.
And so that's 2012.
Okay, right.
And all of a sudden, I'm getting recognized way more than I have. Now, granted, San Francisco and LA is typically people are just supposed to kind of look at you and move on, like not make a big to-do. San Francisco, they're not that trained that way. But it was because also I live fairly close to the center of the Academy of Art. Popular for-profit school that's in San Francisco. They own most of the property. And I realized it's like, oh, hold on. All the kids that were watching turned 18. Oh, like in the past few years. Right. And I'm living right next to them. And it was always just kind of funny because what we did know from our ratings of the old show is that if we were trying to target 12 to 17-year-olds, we were beating Cartoon Network.
With X-Play.
We were doing so well. Yeah. And a weird thing that happens with television viewership is adults, a loyal viewer of, say, a show like Oprah, they watch it 2 to 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. Like, that's considered loyal because of just the schedules of adults.
Right.
12 to 17, your life is so regimented.
Right.
3 p.m. I'm home from school, I watch that.
Right.
And so our numbers were through the roof. And we always joked, like, one day they're all going to turn 18. And when I moved back is when that 18, but, their schedules had changed. They went to college or they went to, or they got a job, and they're just not going to watch it with the same degree of loyalty.
Right. You guys should have moved the show to Cartoon Network because, at least their business model builds for, is the new G4 still going for that 18 to 34 demo and you're having to sort of.
No, that's the one nice thing about the internet. Is it's just raw numbers.
Yes.
There is some demographic things you can do with it or something very niche. Like the demographics, I think, start to move away from something as kind of, I don't know. I always thought 18 to 35. I understand why people targeted that, but, but to think 18 to 35-year-old males all kind of march in lockstep strike me as a little bit odd.
Right.
Whereas like what the internet allows for is something more niche. Right. That like you don't even need to just say gamers. Oh, gamers who like shooters, gamers who like card games.
Well, so the people who looked at G4 and said, why in the world are they coming back? Because as a TV network, that's almost icing on the cake, right? So
everyone missed it. We kept on saying we're digital first. Which meant we're not oblivious, but there's value. People do watch television.
Do they?
And and here's another thing that's weird. When G4 was off the air, people were like, why don't we have another video game network? And I would think, you have the internet.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Yeah.
There's a strange validating quality to the TV screen.
Yeah.
And it kind of means, there is that innate insecurity in video games that we're not up to. It's always, they're going to be bigger than movies. It's like, shut up. All of that stuff.
Always drove me crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's so subsumed that it's like, if it's on TV, that means we've made it.
Right.
Which, yeah, and there really is a desire for that. Also, there is something different about the rhythm of a television show versus something on the internet. That's,
Sure.
they really are two different animals.
Right.
Just the same way that a 45-minute hour-long drama that, with a 45, like the other part of the commercials, it's much different than when you watch Stranger Things or Game of Thrones,
where they don't care.
Pure hour. Yeah. And there's no breaks or anything like that.
Right.
And
what I love about that is the format is just like, the story we need to tell, episode 4, season 6 is an hour and 12 minutes. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Tell the story.
Final one, was it 2.5 hours? It was like an Avengers movie.
Loved it. I'm a huge fan. Okay. I want to talk about Olivia Munn for a minute. Olivia Munn, I mean, I don't know her that well. I barely know Morgan, and I know Morgan more than Olivia. But I want to ask you about her for a couple of reasons. One is I was stunned at her acting chops when she was in the newsroom. Like, that's the first time I saw her outside of G4 that I'm like, holy fuck, she's not only a real actress, she's a fucking good actress, right? I mean, when you guys were working with her, and I heard from a number of people that, she didn't have the best reputation at G4. I never really encountered her in any way to suggest anything. I barely talked to her. I was always doing stuff with Kevin. Did you guys know, looking at the cast, it's like she's probably the one that's going to sort of ascend to sort of quote the next level? Or was there anyone that you looked at and said that person's going to go on to big things, or you didn't really think about them that way? They were just people you worked with.
I mean, she was. I can't remember if she was actively pursuing a film career.
Right.
I feel like she was, and she did show up, I think, in a couple of things. So that you kind of got the sense that her off ramp was different.
Okay.
Whereas, at least for me, maybe even Kevin, it was like, wait, we're driving, right? What do you mean off ramp?
Right. There's an end to this.
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
We're in polyester jackets in front of a fire drum. That's the future. Okay, so then what about the new cast? Do you look? I mean, obviously Xavier Woods, obviously because WWE, but do you look at the new cast and do you kind of go, there's somebody in the new cast that you're just like, wow, they're going to go into, not that G4 is not big, but the next step in sort of entertainment, or you just can't look at them that way because you see them all day and they're just colleagues?
There's one person, Fiona Nova, because she also has endeavors outside. She put together a short film called The Laundromat Off Sunset. I can't remember. It was The Laundromat. Yeah. Then she's working on another one. She comes out of the Rooster Teeth group. And she struck me as having a bunch of myriad interests, and just kind of, all of them are really quick, but, she's like, there's kind of the games pop culture thing, and that, like, there's stuff there. I felt that with conversations. I think it's interesting you say that, because, okay, when Olivia and all of us were doing G4, games were like this. There was single player, multiplayer. It was since then, games have like gotten like this. There's like such a diversity of games, to say nothing of esports.
Right.
And so people who find themselves in that mix, Frost and Black Okage, all of that. Once again, I'm not speaking for them, but it's like the opportunities to carve that path. There is an off ramp that still leaves you in games, whereas for like people like me back in the old days, it was with all due respect to my former colleagues, it was like, okay, I'll do this and then I'll do PR.
Right.
Only a few went into game design, and a very, very small. Greg Saban being probably the greatest among us who pulled that off. But yeah, so it's a very different animal.
Right.
But Fiona is the one who struck me with the very deliberate acting chops.
Okay.
And creative chops. I hope I didn't embarrass her by saying that.
No, I think that's I'm sure that's a nice thing to hear. I want to see if I have this clip. I want to play you this clip because you were talking to Kevin about when you were coming up with G4, and you were like, I won't even play the clip. The gist of it was you were like, there were times I wasn't the nicest guy. A lot of this kind of got to my head and all this shit. Now that you've done therapy and you've kind of, been through the mix and all that stuff, do you see these younger people who are struggling with that and you're like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, getting the egos and getting the, I want my parking space and all this shit that you were dealing with. Is that not where the new generation is? Or you're like, yeah, that's what you have to deal with in this industry. And you have to kind of learn to grow out of that unless you just happen to come to the table as a fully baked human.
I would say I'm not going to speak of people on G4, but I see it all over
not specifically, but in terms of like, as somebody who's been through that war,
it's because you're so, at least for me, I know it's true of other people, you're so insecure.
Yeah.
Because you're providing a product that has no clear value. At best, it's a value that goes through Nielsen.
Right.
It gets spit out the other end, but that's the show. So you don't know what part of the show is you. There have been focus groups I know and things like that. And especially when it comes time to negotiating your deal, that nebulousness is put back in your face. But it's also like less savory producers will absolutely manipulate you with stuff like that. And make you feel insecure because you'll just feel like you need to do more and more and more and more and more. But then you're looking for it other ways. And what's interesting is that also happened not just within the entertainment space, but within the gaming space. And I've seen this as well, which is, if I don't, back in the old days, you're like, you hope that someone will just kind of let you through to the front of the line so you can see the demo at E3 and get back. Because trust me, certain celebrities not attached to games will be able to get that. And it's like you get those weird, it's like, okay, like who at Ubisoft or who at Sony is going to genuflect, it's, you need that approbation all the time. And yes, therapy has helped. It's also just getting old. Because when you're young, I think all of that kind of stuff just matters, period. When you're young and you slap a camera in front of you, it gets even worse. And that's why also it's like the comments can sting more. I mean, that's the thing. It's I could give a fuck what these people think of me. And
that's wonderful. It's so clear though, and I think that has to be a refreshing place to have arrived at your mental state.
That's why, because the reason we're doing this, you may have forgotten, is Metroid Dread. You didn't like Metroid Dread. I was currently playing it.
I did not like it. I found the onboarding really problematic.
The issues you had with it were mirroring the issues I had with it.
Okay.
I was infuriated. I think it's when you get to the second section and you don't know how to proceed and you have to shoot a hole in the wall.
Yeah. To
be able to move forward. I'm like, no, you don't. Why would you make your player stop dead in their tracks, go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth? It has no respect for time.
No.
And this is coming from someone who I'm an hour 5,000 of Elden Ring.
I love
but
Elden
it does
Ring.
actually, but it respects my time. I saw exactly what you saw. Plus, it's a generational divide.
Yeah.
But there are ways that people decide to treat Nintendo that kind of sometimes sets my teeth on edge. It's as if Nintendo is a very emotionally troubled child. And any loud noises or sharp movements, and you're going to have something really bad on your hands.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And Nintendo has kind of brilliantly fostered this image as well. Yeah. That there's this delicate flower. And that there was always this sense that my God, if we don't praise Metroid to the heavens, then we'll never get another Metroid game. And it's like, that's not my fucking problem.
No.
And if it's like this, I'm not going to miss it.
No, I didn't know you had a beef with Metroid. I had no
Oh
idea.
yeah. And like, well, you and I went back and forth. I saw the grief you were getting, and so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do some aggro, see if I can draw a little off the Jaffe onto me.
You're like drifting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. No, listen, that was I had to go through a whole thing of becoming apathetic to the haters, and it wasn't that they really bothered me as much as I wanted to engage with them, and I was enjoying the debate of like, oh, can I turn them? Can I bring them around? You know?
Yeah.
And there came a point where I was like, I had enough success bringing people around that I was like, do you know how much time I've wasted doing that when I could have been working on an edit or a new episode or hanging out with my kids? And I have fully, as I've gotten older, embraced apathy. And I don't mean that like a joke, like I'm depressed, I don't give a fuck about the world, or I don't mean that. I mean, there is kind of a joy that comes from going, it really doesn't matter. It really fucking doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
You know?
And once again, people were so, well, my favorite was, well, that's what Metroid is like.
Oh, they're so like, dumb. You cannot argue with it.
Once again, make Metroid great again.
Right.
It's like, we got to return to the Metroids of yore.
And they're not even, they can't even argue right, Adam Sessler.
Yeah,
they say, well, that was in the tutorial. And I'm like, okay, if you really want to hang in with the conversation, the tutorial about shooting blocks where they say shoot blocks that are hidden, if you remember, was a stone block that had red breaking in it, and it was clear it had been visually called out as there might be a secret, like in Zelda behind the crack walls. That's what the tutorial trains you at. Don't fucking come. No, fuck you. No, it didn't. I've been designing games for 20 fucking years. Go fuck yourself.
Now, and also, once again, to compare it to Elden Ring, which is actually teaching you how to play the game tens upon tens of hours into the game. You just don't realize it.
Oh,
and
right.
That's the thing, is that it didn't have a nice organic way to get me to start thinking, shoot everything for a moment when you enter a room.
No.
And it just decided to just leave me high and dry.
Yep.
And it's just like, that's not fun.
No.
And the way I remember I explained it both in the review, because there are actually people that I played that were that were not happy with the way I looked at it. And I was like, you know what? I'm old. I think about mortality way more now than I do. And like that was wasted time. And not for anything edifying, or that was going to improve my experience further down the line. Whereas once again, going back to a From Software game, fighting the boss, not only do you learn how to get the boss, it increases your confidence in getting future bosses, and you start to realize quirks and interesting things of the game that you will start applying, because I haven't played all the Dark Souls, but I was in Dark Souls 3 when it finally clicked me. It's like, I got to start rolling into the attacks, or else yeah.
Well, you can do that in Bloodborne, and I don't think you can do that as much in Elden, can you?
No, and actually I had to unlearn some of that because I was getting way too aggressive with that. I'm like, stop it, Adam, stop it. So
but yeah, and the frustrating part for me on it was just the sense of, it's kind of like what you said. If somebody says, I don't like this movie, but you do, there's two routes. There's the fun route of, you were an English major just like I was. It's like, let's discuss the text. Let's discuss what you like, and then there's the, I won't even hear of it. You're just wrong. And it's like, where did you get broken? What happened to you?
Yeah.
I don't.
It's like, I have seen many a bad movie in my life. In fact, I've walked out of many.
I walk out all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And once that's done, it's done.
Yeah.
It's like, why do I want to just, obviously the extreme example is Star Wars.
You walk out of Star Wars?
Well, no. But like the extreme example of being disappointed by a film and not being able to let it go with Star Wars.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, not for me. I let it go. Like, I just never made it that much of a part of my life. I guess also, like, and I'm a guy who, like, when I review things, it's like, it's almost impossible to do it now because the windows to review and the length of games has gotten so out of control.
Right.
But back in the old days, I played the game well, to the end, and if I could do every side mission, I really would, because I wanted to see what it felt like as the entire package, how repetitive it got, matters like that. I know what it's like to have to be obliged to consume something in its entirety. And still I don't hold on to it with the level of grudge that I think I might be allowed.
I keep threatening to have a therapist come on my show who I don't know if there's a specializing in working with geeks like us. I don't say that as
I actually know a couple of names I can give to you.
I would love that, because I don't understand that psychology, and I want to, because it fascinates me, the fact that they can't let it go. And again, there is a part of me that's sympathetic. It's like, wow, this is some kind of metaphorical crutch for you, and I know you don't want to see that, because if you do, you have to face all the demons you've been avoiding.
I have an unfully formed theory on this.
Okay.
But you and I are close enough in age, I think, that
we're like 2 years. Yeah.
We're Gen X.
Oh yeah.
So we're of that original Star Wars generation, which is really the first time someone figured out that you could brand shit for kids under 15.
Right.
And they were still trying to figure it out. Kenner, which doesn't even exist anymore, had the license for Star Wars toys.
Yeah.
And they had to mass produce these things, so they didn't even think it was going to be that big. It was a mess. My God, the Children's Television Workshop that makes Sesame Street didn't even own the licenses to Big Bird and all that. So the lunchboxes you and I had, they made nothing off of it.
That Mr. Rogers trolley back there, my brother finally got for my birthday, because I've been wanting one of those since I was a little kid, and they wouldn't sell them. I'm like, where? You won't sell a fucking trolley anyway. Go ahead.
But Gen X also, as it evolved, we were it wasn't just anti-brand. There's a lot of that sensibility where it's like, if I'm of the same mind of more than 5 people, I get worried. You start to wonder if maybe someone's been pulling a fast one on me or something like that. And I think that's why it both, like what we're looking at the Star Wars and things like that, looks a little bit foreign and a little bit alarming. Whereas that millennial generation, and this isn't to shit on millennials, that was established by the time that they were young consumers. Like those Saturday morning cartoons had a far more forward-thinking branding thing. There was already the Disney Channel and the Disney Radio, and all of that stuff. That those brands were how they identified themselves. Where you and I don't know if you were the kind of person that walked around with albums under his shoulder when he was at school. There was a way of kind of saying, "This is who I am."
But I had that.
Where I'm like, I'm Susie and the Banshees. Right. I am not Guns N' Frickin' Roses. Actually. I carry about like Susie and the Banshees and Public Enemy. Those are my 2 favorite things. Yeah. And but there was a way to say I am not part of the mainstream. Whereas like the mainstream was so big for a different generation. It's like, what part of the mainstream have I chosen to create my identity?
And then if you go, yes, I think that's a great point, because you're basically saying, from the very beginning, they're swimming in the, pledging of allegiance to these brands. And then you go back to what you were saying about, being X-Play being something to people that it wasn't ever that. You go back to like when you're really young, or even just a teenager even, but it's like, there are things that a product can do for you because you're at a certain point in your life or you encounter it at a certain time that the product has nothing to do with. It's a right place, right time thing. So you kind of mix that with what you're talking about, which is sort of this just impossible to ignore branding. And I guess it is almost like they're defending a friend at this point, when they defend Nintendo. And it's like, again, I feel for them, because that sounds like a terrible way to live, to not be able to have those, the ability to step back and go, what am I doing? But I when you describe it like that, I kind of get it.
It's also why probably the most controversial thing I said on the Twitters in recent weeks was, I don't know if you caught that story. I think Forbes had it, that Bungie was going to stop having anywhere near the level. And I support them on that, not just because I think it's the right thing to do, but I'd love to hear your take on this, sort of as a developer and as a developer inside of a much larger publisher at times. Is I don't like the way, be it legitimate or otherwise, that creatives indulge the community or this notion of community as if they are an essential component of the creation.
I agree.
And I guess to some
I don't agree. I don't agree with your conclusion or your solution, but I absolutely agree with that. The idea that it's like, restore the Snyderverse. Go fuck yourself. How about that? Restore, go fuck yourself. I saw JLA. I watched the whole thing, the 4-hour cut. I thought it was fine. It was entertaining, but it wasn't worth the fucking rigmarole. I like Snyder. I love some of his movies, but it's like, nobody needs to, you know how hard a lot of us work to get a seat at the creative table, the captain's chair. I don't fucking need you to tell me what I need to do with my game.
It was also one of my most famous sketches I ever did was Meet the Sass about the fake, completely real and hard-hitting show. The line that I wrote for myself was, if I cared about your opinion, you'd have a television show. It's not completely 100% false. It's like, and it was part of, and also the ones who tend to identify themselves as part of the community and are saying that tend to be the ones that have the worst perspective on things. And probably the last person I would want to go to if I was making a game to say, what should we fix? Because like you obviously the things that you would put as a priority on fixing something, especially in an online game, would be the things that impact the largest number of players. Not the guy who like is so skilled at it that like he can like do this one thing. I mean, it's like, okay, that's a much smaller group, but those are the loud ones.
I got into that with the Twisted Metal fans on Twisted Metal 2012.
I was about to say, I imagined that you were dealing with that.
Yeah, it was not fun at all. And I was just like, and I eventually just split with the online fandom of Twisted Metal because I was just like, go make your own fucking car combat game. What do I care? It's like, this is what me and Scott and the team wanted to make. If you don't like it, you have an orifice that we're all born with, and you can stick the game up that. And then I was totally fine with that. But what I will say,
and to be honest, if the $60 is that important, you shouldn't be buying games.
Sure. I
mean,
that's...
in all honesty, it is an expensive hobby. And if it's this or something else, and like Jaffe shouldn't be the one who's held responsible. My review shouldn't be the one that's held responsible. It's sorry.
Although I wish it were when it comes to Twisted Metal, because I remember I was at DICE in 2012, and you were there, and I was backstage about to go on, and you walked by me. And you said, you just stopped real quick. You said, "Oh, hey, Jaffe, I played the new Twisted Metal. I think it's really fucking cool. I really like it." And I was like, "Oh, awesome. We're going to get a good review from G4.
Oh,
and
God, I'm sorry.
Then I got back to my room that night, and the guy who wrote the review was like, "This is terrible." I'm like, motherfuckers. But anyway.
What's worse is that in 2012, I was so detached from the show.
I'm sure.
I didn't even know when reviews were. Oh, no. I mean, I almost had a huge breakup with a friend I loved. I'm not going to say who.
Right.
Over a review, and it lasted for years because I was overstretched. This review came out. There were other people that were working for me that had eyes on things. And I had once again given a false impression that it was going to get a good review because of something I had said months earlier. And I like GDC was happening. I was having to do all the forward plans.
Right.
And the person was very upset with me.
I wasn't upset. I was just more like, oh fuck.
No, not you.
No, I know.
But
it is what it is.
I did play it. I'm like, fine. Well, I kind of came around. I mean, Twisted Metal, I played it on PlayStation 1. I played Black on PlayStation 2. I played those things.
Right.
Are you worried that you're going to have to be answering for, is it television show? A television series?
No. I mean, I like, what I will tell you is, I mean, the TV show's shooting right now, and I let's just put it this way. I know things about the television show people are much better at keeping me abreast of what's going on than the video game people, if you can imagine. But they're great. I don't know if the show's going to be a hit, a bomb, or somewhere in the middle. I know that the pedigree of the people making it, they make stuff I like. I like Deadpool. I love Cobra Kai.
What's that group?
Yeah.
Oh,
but you know,
that's it. Well, that sounds like the right creative mindset.
But it's also a show on Peacock,
yeah.
so you know, who the fuck knows? So I mean, I'm not until I see footage, I'm not going to be like banging the drum for it. But I do have my fingers are crossed. I'm hopeful.
I mean, even if you did or did not have any creative input whatsoever with the show, you, by virtue of being David Jaffe, do you have to answer for something like that?
I don't give a fuck.
No, you feel people will come to you, looking for you to answer for something
and I'll be like, oh, yeah, I had nothing to do with it. Go fuck yourself. But I will say where I do disagree with you on the Bungie thing, though, is it kind of relates to what we were talking about, like the good-looking people on television. It's not that my takeaway was there are a number of people in video game fandom that use the internet and they should be ashamed of themselves the way they use it. They are mean and vulgar and threatening and embarrassing to themselves and their family name. But ultimately, though, I think, and you know, I think if you are a what do they call it? Community manager, community specialist, whatever. You're in customer service, right? And you hang your shingle out on your Twitter account or whatever and say, I'm the community manager for God of War. Or if you are someone on a development team and you make part of your communicating with the fandom the fact that you're part of that team. Like, you know, I'm the assistant animator, I'm this, I'm that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, do you deserve it? Of course not. But that's what they're like. So what I think is if I ran another video game company, I'd say, look, I don't recommend any of you publicly associate with this game unless you're me or you're the community manager. But if you want to, that's cool. But don't come crying to me if you get a dick pic, because I think it's awful you're getting a dick pic. But these are some of the morons we're selling to. So, you know,
I think it's more, and this is me speculating, please, but I've seen things like this, not just on the video game side, but on the TV side. And, you know, there was this other period of my life where I helped found a tech company to try to understand what the audience for video games was talking about.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of interesting things there as well. Is that someone further up a food chain has decided we want to have a large community engagement thing. I mean, that is kind of the word du jour, is community. In fact, there was something
it doesn't make a fucking difference, by the way.
Yeah, and so we don't know if the people who were being put in front of there were necessarily wanting to do it. But what's interesting is in what precipitated the problems at Bungie was that this guy was forthright. Yeah. He said he didn't think this thing was coming back. And I think the part where I really do feel for them is that they were doing the right thing. They overjudged they want to have a frank discussion with the audience, but I think they overestimated the emotional maturity and of said audience that's going to be there to be able to engage with something like that. And I think they made the right decision. Like, okay, we're just going to stop those initiatives altogether. My best guess is that the community management people, you know, probably recommended something like that. The more we do this, the more we're potentially creating problems for themselves with no gain. Because I think the other thing is the people that would self-identify as community and show up to that, no matter how much they might complain they're buying your game, those are the last people you need to activate.
Yeah, and that's why I don't.
The ones who are considering buying your game.
Yeah, we did a game which was the biggest failure of my career, Drawn to Death, and that game, me and Sony were like, you know what, we don't even give a fuck about. You know, I was going out and doing PR, and I usually would practice.
I was supposed to interview one day for that.
Oh, okay.
E3.
Well,
and then our ship crossed. I remember that.
Well, I would usually practice the fuck out of a demo and practice my interview answers, even though I didn't know what I was going to be asked. And this, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I can go right to the community now. We had a very active Twitter presence. We had a very active forum presence. You know, we had fans that we were calling on their birthdays, and the entire team would get together and we'd film a video for happy birthday for them and shit. I mean, we were all in on the fact that if we bring the community on the journey, we can sidestep all this other shit. And that works great for about the first 2 days of your game. But ultimately, the game is the game. And Elden Ring didn't need director and producer out there 24/7 wishing people happy birthday. They were back there working. The game came out. The world changed. It fell in love with it. And that was a lesson learned for us. So I don't know why these companies still think catering to the fucking community in the way they had been matters, because it really doesn't. It doesn't translate.
It doesn't. And, one of the things I would definitely advise, because I saw this with the tech company, with the data, was that once the developer / publisher starts talking, you will then create chatter. And unless you plan to keep talking constantly, you will not be able to control that narrative. Like, the minute you stop talking, the conversation, like that vacuum will get filled.
But doesn't matter.
And then all of a sudden words get parsed.
Sure.
Aspersions. And then we have now this other element of YouTubers, especially, who will find, the press does this for stuff that isn't game related. It's like the laziest, and I'm going to use the word lazy. I know that like GQ Britain, which just everyone who's upset with what GQ Britain said, that magazine just by its name says we are for assholes.
I know something happened with them and I read it, but I've forgotten it already.
Okay, I guess something is being changed in the first season of Stranger Things.
Oh, right. That's right.
Hole.
Yeah.
And
one was a plot.
This is like.
Be clear though, I don't know how familiar you are. One was a plot hole, which was Will's birthday. I'm going to get in the weeds just for a brief moment. Well, I know, but it's really funny though. Do you ever watch the show? Do you know the show?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
so not at the level that you clearly do.
No. There's two issues. One is Will's birthday was expressed in season 2. I forget, it was like March 2nd or whatever. And he had a shit birthday or whatever. And then in season 5, the day that Elle goes to the roller rink with Mike and Will, the recording of the camera was his birthday. And it was like, shit, everybody forgot Will's birthday. And so they said, okay, we're going to go back and fix that. But the one that I think people are having a problem with is Jonathan was sneaking around in the bushes taking pictures of Nancy in season 1. And I guess now
consistent with his character.
Right. But I think now that's the retcon. It's like, well, we're going to change that so he's not so creepy. I mean, that's kind of shitty.
The video game link to it is within this article in GQ England, GQ Britain, like we're just brats in suits. Is that they talked about the laziness of the video game industry doing patches on games and tried to
fuck off.
And they use lazy. That's why. So anyway, is that it's like I saw 5 tweets on this. I'm going to declare that people and now put an article on it.
Right.
So the minute that something is being parsed by some overly officious, community member with nothing to do, tweets come out or the Reddit thread starts, someone who's like, I don't know what to do today with my video. Okay, we'll do this, slap an exclamation point on it. We have a video, and then it might actually get picked up. And now something that really didn't exist is a thing. That's it's those, and I feel for all developers on this, because one thing that I had learned over the years in talking, it was if I played a demo of something for the first time or showed off, or I saw a game for the first time, and before I would do the interview, I'm like, hey, it looks really, really cool. And like this very genuine moment would sometimes happen, like, you really think so? And over time, I realized it's like, games are very different from movies in this regard. You have a team of people who have been working under the most bizarre secret circumstances for years. Whereas in a movie, there's a dude writing a screenplay.
Right.
And there's some producers. It's a much smaller group of people who are working on this day and night. They care. They have no idea what they're doing is good.
Right.
And they get to show it for the first time, and it's almost always to the press.
Yeah.
And it's like they want to talk about their game. They're enthusiastic about their game. They're not trying to con people. Like the whole bullshit that happened with Molyneux all those years ago. It bothered me because as someone who's interviewed him a lot of times, it's like, yeah, he would sometimes talk about things that didn't show up in his game. I called him on it. But that doesn't mean he doesn't want it in his game.
Right. That's right.
And the strange narcissism of the consumer thinking, all of these things are engineered to fool me out of my precious $60. It really is so narcissistic. But going back to what I said, it's like they want to talk about it, and they would love to talk about it in a nuanced and exciting way and talk about the ups and downs, because that's been part of their life. Yeah. But God forbid, like, there's a reason why PR keeps them on a really narrow lane. And it has nothing to do with, it has everything to do with how the audience is going to take it, because they are incapable of taking that honesty. And the only solution there is talk as little as possible, get the game out with a really strong marketing campaign.
And ultimately, though, that is fundamentally what works. That's what works, though, is that, God of War, the new God of War, Ragnarok, is a good example of this, is that I think Sony, if Sony lived on the internet and was watching Twitter, they would have been like, oh my God, they need more data. What's wrong? Is God of War going to slip? And I made videos going, yeah, I think God of War is going to slip. But
I was watching.
and I did, based on things that my experience would show. I'm like, yeah, that game's going to slip. But it wouldn't have mattered. Like, whether or not Sony's, I agree with you, things will rush in to fill the vacuum. But it doesn't really, you are talking about an expensive hobby. It's not like people are going to go, well, I was going to buy Ragnarok, and yeah, it's got a bunch of 9s and 10s, but remember that time they weren't saying a lot about it?
Or it doesn't, Thor is fat. I refuse to play fat Thor.
Right, right. But, underneath it all, and I could be wrong on this. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where your views on, how rotten capitalism is, but everything from the $60 means a lot, even more to the point that, these YouTube people, which I'm one of now, will basically opine about things that they think are interesting. It's not like we have a great social safety net in this country where it's kind of like, everybody has to compromise because money is the great power. And I think it's horrible, but I have tried not to compromise, but I've also tried to be very aware of my privileged position because my bank account is relatively decent. It's not John Romero decent. It's not Ferrari decent, but it's decent enough that I don't have to give a fuck. I've purchased the freedom of not giving a fuck if Sony ever wants to work with me again. Ironically, they've paid me the money that's allowed me to do that. But I appreciate it's, no one looked to me. I have people writing me and saying, oh, Jaffe, I love your I don't give a fuck attitude. I want more of that in my life. And I'm like, okay, you should have that, but also be aware that when I worked for Sony and I was dependent on them for a paycheck, and I'm not anymore, I was still pretty vocal. But, I remember the day Drawn to Death came out and PR wrote me and said, hey, you're tweeting negative shit about Trump. And I'm like, yeah, because he's a shithead. And they're, yeah, but you don't want to be tweeting when your game at the time it was getting good reviews. I'm like, all right, I'll delete it. But I played the game too, but I needed to at the time. So it's, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. It's like, it's a game that needs to be played. It's not, I think the other thing is it's not selling out. I think that, I'm going to use the word discourse. I hate it. It's kind of like what I used to joke about what I wanted to do with gaming, with scoring games back in the G4 days.
Okay.
I wanted to have that. We're just going to have two types of scores. If the game can have 5 or not 5.
Okay.
We've created it that worst thing ever, best thing ever. And if it's best thing ever, well, okay, once something's best thing ever, then about 2 weeks? I remember this after Bioshock Infinite because I had such a glowing review of it.
Right.
And then it was the first time where about 2 weeks later, it's like, well, hold on, maybe not the best thing ever. There's this kind of ridiculous cycle that almost every piece of creativity, I assume Nope, which is such a good movie, is going to get something.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, Jaffe, you would.
I'm dying to see it. I just don't like to leave the house.
I understand that. Yeah. Finding my shoes is a point of anxiety. But there'll be reconsiderations. It's once again, it's all part of the capitalism, and I get that. But I do think that we can, because it's not so much I'm a pro-capitalist. I just considered inevitable, and that the best thing that we can do is try to mitigate its
Damage.
worst
Yeah.
elements. And one of them is you can make money, but can we shift the way that we do it a little bit? Do we need to sensationalize everything? But right now, if 30% is sensationalizing, then the other 70 has to too, because that it's kind of like when everything decided to be free on iOS.
Right.
And suddenly charging something seems absolutely exorbitant. And trust me, I've always been the guy who's like, I would like to have an even keel. I would like to talk about creativity. I always want to do interviews and stuff like that. And unfortunately, the people who like it. But most everyone else wants, this is like, everyone wants the soapbox where I'm angry.
I know.
And it's just like, that's how the money is made.
And what are you putting out into the world? What am I putting out in the world? I mean, I try my best to sort of, not even try my best. I'm always honest. If I'm angry, I'm genuinely angry. But I do try to balance it by going, okay, I need to put up a couple videos that are about a really cool indie game I discovered, and I'm just positive because that's part of my life too. All right, so I got 2 quick questions to ask you, and then will you take questions from the audience? So you have time?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't have a life.
Okay. So the first question I want to ask you, and by the way, in the audience, if you want to submit super chats or you want to jump on the Discord and speak with Adam, now is the time to do it. Scott Woodford did already send a super chat. He said, "I like Frost, Adam, even with politics, we disagree." I mean, I think that would be the best for everybody. I don't know where it became written, and this is one of the questions I want to ask you, that we have to hate people who disagree. But when I said, hey, Adam's going to come on the show,
a couple people had opinions.
Well, not only did they have opinions, but people were like, I will donate money to charity if you'll ask Adam about Colin Moriarty. And I've always been this guy, I like Colin. I'm a fan of Colin. And I've always been like, when he and I are talking, I'm always like, what happened in general to make so many of the gaming media have a beef with this guy? So, I mean, what is the issue with Colin Moriarty? Because I don't understand.
I can't speak for other people.
Right.
To the gentleman who said the thing about Frost, he's a better man than me.
Okay.
10 years ago, if someone said they were a Republican, we would disagree and I would still get along fine.
Okay.
You could talk about games and stuff like that. In this era, that's a whole different ball of wax. As we talked about at the very beginning of this, it's an existential thing. And the fact is, when
Hang on, Seth. Sorry. Did I fuck it up? Hang on. Fucked it up. Oh, Jaffe, old so-and-so. Okay, let me go back to SESSLER. You can watch and judge me if you want, but you can go fuck yourself. I'm doing this all by myself, so go fuck yourself. All right, let me get let me get out of it. Let me get SESSLER back. Hang on. Fuck you. I'm getting them. Just give me a minute. My God. Come on now. Lord have mercy. Fuck you, Leonard. Fuck you, Crystal. You motherfucker. Hang on. Rob the mod. How do I get SESSLER back? Oh, man. You know what? Fuck you, motherfuckers. All right, come on, Jaffe. Get it done. Get it done. Stay focused. Stay focused. SESSLER's like, how do you get out of bed in the morning, Jaffe? That's what I want to know. Okay, give me this. I don't want to be in the call-in show channel. Fuck you. SESSLER. He's right there. Okay. Here we go. Adam SESSLER, are you there?
I am here. Can
I'm
you
a
see me?
fucking moron. No, we'll see you soon. Keep going. So we were talking about
Yeah, I feel
Colin Moriarty.
So, look, he ran into Glenn Beck's arms. That's my memory of things. Look, to be honest, I haven't thought of the guy in ages.
I never knew you guys had an issue. I mean, did you guys like?
Well, no, I think it was like I was fine with him. It just things started to get. I can't remember exactly, but I think he just started to become more annoying, and he had a lot of followers, and they were retweeting him a lot on my feed. And I just kind of was like, I'm kind of done with this, and I blocked just so I didn't have to see it. And I think my memory is I made a crack about him, and that was it. So look, I have no idea if he talks about me on what. I don't even know what he does.
He's got a Patreon. He's got his own media company. They make great content.
It's like, I had a beef, I guess. I don't but I know it was over politics.
Gotcha.
And that it's just like, I'll be frank. I don't let people with certain beliefs into my life. Like I said, I think I made a crack about it. And I really never thought about it much after that. And the thing is, I've had really great game discussions with him, but I've had them with people whose politics I'm more comfortable with.
Understood. Okay, fair enough.
Like I said, it's just really like that. So,
and he's pretty even keeled about a lot of it too. So I maybe it's just the internet stirred it up. Like, But
I remember something about Glenn Beck, and I was like, But yeah, I believe once again this is, some kind of. If there's drama there, it's not on my end.
Gotcha. So. Okay. Last question I have. I could talk to you for 10 hours. I
could talk to you for 10 hours.
I can talk to you for 10 hours. So and so. Okay. How do I phrase this? As a developer. Okay, I'm a developer who went from developing. I wanted to make movies. I made games for 20 something years, and now I basically do YouTube, right? I love the idea people can change, they can grow, they can have different opinions and things like that. And it's necessary, it's healthy, it's important. You want to go from this to that to writing novels. But is there something like, do you think I'm in the wrong where I get a little, it doesn't sit great with me when I see games journalists going from games to development. Like recently in the last 2 weeks, I think it was the main editor of IGN or GameSpot, Lucy somebody, is now working with Ubisoft, a company that, has many skeletons in their closet they need to answer for, and I wish the press would hold them more.
French skeletons.
They're French. Well, yeah. And
they have parades.
And there's just a lot of that, and sometimes it works out great. Like the lead creative of Destiny 2 used to work at 1UP. Eric. God damn it, I forget. Yeah, but that guy. Yeah. But I mean, is that kind of petty and snobby to have an issue? Because I just sometimes I wish it's just like, isn't being a journalist isn't that its own career? Isn't that what you want? And it's like maybe.
I think, to be honest, I can't speak for them.
Yeah.
But a lot of these people, a good chunk of them, probably would have stayed journalists if these fucking sites would have held on to them. They don't pay. When you get to a certain age,
right?
Like, you need to be remunerated, especially when you consider the fact of where a lot of it was based in San Francisco.
Right.
In LA. You're not being remunerated. Back in the old days, I mean, when I was just starting out, like when the magazines existed, the pay scale was enough that you could, on the upper ends, if you aged into EIC and stuff like that, like, you had a career. And people stayed there. Like, the people who were running stuff like PC Gamer
Ed
and stuff
Zimrad
like that,
and shit from EGM, right?
Yeah, like, those, like, they were tired within the Ziff Davis corporate structure.
Right.
But that's not available anymore. It sounds like such a sexy job. It isn't, kids. That there's always young people that are at the door that you can pay peanuts to.
Same thing with games.
So yeah, and there's two bad things that come out of that. Well, the real bad one is you don't have old, experienced people to help guide the young people. And I think some of the more irascible elements that have been out there with some of the writing. I'm not going to name names. I'm not even going to point to the articles, but I will read things frequently where I'm like, what?
Right.
It's because you don't have someone there that's like, yeah, you know what? Let's pull back on that. Let's maybe reposition this. That's not happening. It's content, and you're just the squirrel or the hamster or the gerbil. I can't remember what we talk about anymore.
Right.
And so when they're aging out, where do they go? It's kind of like it's not that dissimilar from the problem I had, where like suddenly I don't have TV and all I know what to do is to talk off the top of my head in front of a camera. The value, though, I would sometimes say that journalists can bring to a team is they probably, just by virtue of the job they had and what a development job has, they've played so many different games that they can bring that kind of perspective to things and what they've seen. It really, I think, depends on the person and the role you're putting them into. But it's actually one of the best. Like, some of the most interesting stuff that ever happened is when people who I regarded quite well, like they were very successful in the game industry, they pulled me aside. It's like, hey, what's good? What's going on? And I'm like, like, no, within the industry, it's like, I'm here. That's the other thing is that it's not like Hollywood. In Hollywood, people are moving from job to job to job to job, fundamentally within the same town.
Right.
Within games, you are on the project to 3 to 4 years potentially.
Yes.
And you might then stay on for the next project. It doesn't have the same feeding where everyone's up in each other's business in exactly the same way.
And you don't have time to play a lot. I have become a bigger fucking game fan, even though I was always one, since I've been out of it, because I've just had the time to immerse myself and play these fucking things. And when you're making a game, you're playing stuff, but you're playing it more like, okay, I need to see what that is. Okay, got it. Let me go back to the war zone. So, okay, so let's do this, Adam. Thank you for answering all these questions from me. I want to so what I'm going to do is I am going to kill this call. I'm going to drag you into, if you put yourself in the call-in waiting room, if you just go to general and you'll see the list of channels on the side, I'll meet you in there and then we'll drag some people in to ask you some questions.
So that's Gavin and Gaines general.
Yes. Okay, thanks, man.
I'm here.
Okay, so let's see. It's down here. Oh, there's a lot of questions for you. Okay. So question. Okay. So I'm looking for Adam. Let me send him a. So Adam, if you're watching the stream, this is where you want to put yourself, if you can. I muted the call room. Yeah, Rob, I'm just waiting to get Adam in the call though. But you're saying I'm muted in here? Well, Smug Dark Loser, why don't, if you got an issue with Adam SESSLER, he's right here. Why don't you call in and talk to him? He's clearly not a wallflower. He's not a shy guy. Jaffe told him to go to General. Well, we're in General, but General doesn't have a call-in room. There he is. Where? Oh, there he is. Okay, cool. Okay, Adam, are you there? You there?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, we are going to bring in a call from... David Hasselhoff is coming in. Here we go.
Hasselhoff.
You are on with
SESSLER. Not a wallflower.
But you guys got to turn your shit down. Turn your shit down, David Hasselhoff.
Sorry. My apologies.
All right, what's up, man?
Hey, I just wanted to say I've been following SES since I used to watch the X-Play E3 days, and your coverage of Skyrim really inspired me to just want to do the same thing myself. I will say, what happened with Rev 3? I miss those days. You guys were killing it on the independent content space, and I feel like you definitely paved the way for companies like Kind of Funny and even, you were talking about Colin earlier, like Sacred Symbols and stuff, to really cover games in that way in the independent space. Uh, what inspired that? Like what got you to that point, and how did you, like, like
I
what?
mean, what got me to go to Rev 3?
Yeah, and then like kind of what happened there? Like I felt like that
Oh,
was such
sure.
a awesome,
So
awesome.
what? Really simply, what got me to go to Rev 3 is G4 fired me. It was an interesting offer. There were people from a lot of X-Tech TV people were there, as well as they had just gotten purchased by Discovery, which just you felt like that there was a little bit more of a strong foundation there, that it wasn't as much of a kind of like we're taking a chance, and it allowed me to get back to San Francisco, which is where my family was from, where I grew up, and where I wanted to be. And I'm very, very proud of the content that I did there, especially
Yeah, you guys
the work.
killed it. I used to watch
Yeah.
every day.
What you did not see is just how hard it was. I was not ready for what the beast that is called YouTube is. And that beast needs to be fed. And the quality of our content was incredible, but I don't think anyone realized that there was about 6 people that were making that happen. And it was a lot. And that it was just something that I could only do for like a certain period of time. And once again, it's like I look at all of these young people that are doing YouTubes and stuff like this. It sounds like you're doing something similar. You won't be able to maintain what you're doing in your 20s when you get to your 40s. And I really recommend that people start to truly think about that, because it just like, and you're not going to want to. Like, I was talking about earlier, it's like you see that kind of that hill, you want to get over the crest, and that's the I've made it. You may not, you can't just plan for that to happen somewhere down the line.
Right.
And if I had started, it was just really, it was great work, hard work, and it's really also better to stop when you're doing well, and not like when you're like at the absolute burnout phase.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I remember. I mean, I'd piss all my teachers off because I'd be in the middle of my computer class, and here I am with my headphones in. I'm playing the next, Rev 3 review. I mean, it's what got me to follow Max Scoville, even though he was at Destructoid before. You guys were a great team of people.
I love that team. What you should have done is have your teacher listen to one of the reviews and be like, I might be learning something here. Because I was hoping that somebody was learning something. Cool.
To be fair, because of you guys, I did write a lot of reviews and would take them to my AP English teachers and be like, will you look over this? Will you, give me some more grammatical information, because I'm terrible at writing.
Well, and the other thing, and a lot of people have said, like, how do you learn to do reviews or stuff like that? The only thing you can do is do them.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things where, like, the more you do it. Oh, and the only other thing is read other reviews and not necessarily game reviews, and read criticism. That's not necessarily about games.
All right, good sir.
It sorry. Your language.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. It's just you just want to be able to get as much kind of critical thinking and in critical language into your brain as possible, and that just kind of opens things up.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
All right, Hasselhoff. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you calling, man.
I appreciate you guys. Take it easy.
You too. All right, let's bring in. Hold on to your butt, Adam. I'll knock this guy off. He's funny as fuck, and he's a pain in the ass, but he's funny as fuck. If he goes out of line, we'll disconnect him. You are on Adam SESSLER with the one and only P Turtle. P Turtle, you're up.
Mr. Turtle.
P Turtle, you are muted, you crazy motherfucker. Yeah. All right, I'll bring somebody else in. P Turtle, sorry, pal. Figure out your shit, man. This is Del the Gamer is in. There you go. What's up, Del the Gamer? Merkham.
Yo, what's up? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question for Adam.
Right here.
Man, I was doing research and I seen that a lot of kids get into the adult industry, and
Get
by them
into
getting
I'm sorry, the what industry?
the adult entertainment industry,
Okay,
the
yeah,
sex industry.
yeah.
I was just wondering, do you think it would be better? One way that
Here
the
we go.
government can
Here we
help them
go. Here we go.
is
Here we go.
they can get taught stuff about the industry in public schools, like basically how to get a proper oral sex, or
Goodbye,
how
Delta
to keep
Gamer.
a
No, no, no. Let SESSLER answer it. Fuck it. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sess.
So you're asking me, should kids be taught how to give oral sex in school?
Well, only like 18 plus. Some kids are 18 plus in school or something like that. Maybe have them get taught a curriculum on that or something like that. I don't know.
No, I believe very much in sex ed.
Yeah.
Oral sex techniques seem to me slightly independent of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not usually sex ed is your body is about to go through some changes. Women's bodies are about to go through some changes. These things will happen. This is how babies are made.
Yeah.
This is how you can keep babies from being made.
Okay.
I think that's all great. Oral sex is the only time I remember in sex ed that oral sex would come up is that there are some people, and this is why we need sex ed, who are stupid enough to think that like you can get impregnated that way or the baby would come through the mouth.
Okay.
So I got a question for you though. So clearly you're in support of this. If they came to you and said, "Hey, you write the curriculum, Delta Gamer," what would you just go to your diaries of all the penises you've sucked and kind of make a list of all the things that you think should be taught to men?
No, I go to the diaries of all the women who fucked me up. And
goodbye, Delta Gamer.
Better.
Goodbye, Delta Gamer. Here we go. You see, this is why G4 doesn't take live calls. Although you should. That would be something. Can you imagine?
I did a show where I took live calls, and it was really funny.
I'm sure the lawyers fucking loved it. This is Easy. Easy, it's Jaffe and SESSLER. What's up, man? Come on, Easy. Don't let me down, baby. What's going on? All right, let's bring in Mario Chief. Get your shit.
Hey.
Sorry
about that.
Oh, no,
Sorry
it's okay.
about
It's
that.
okay. What's up, Easy? Go.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going?
Not much.
Hey,
Good.
Hey, so I got a question here for Adam SESSLER. I used to be a huge X-Play fan back in the day there. Now, the one thing, though, that I've seen, like, recently is there's been, like, a lot of, political takes in the whole gaming industry. So back in the day, I used to read a whole lot of Game Pros and like the magazine. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
Fuck yeah, of course.
All right, right on. So like when I would go and I'd purchase a Game Pro, like I wouldn't necessarily purchase it for Major Mike's political takes in that regards.
Mhm.
Now, like I understand that through social media, publicists and gaming devs have become a lot more political. They've been spreading their views in that regards, and it's just like the whole evolution of where we were in the
Make games
TV,
great again.
right? Yeah, and the whole from TV to print type of thing. Do you think that certain aspects of what transpired? I think it was back in January with that whole Frost incident. In the live kind of platform, hurt G4's brand in terms of like the return. And I'll give you guys an example. Because obviously
I can answer it easily. It did
for sure. It didn't.
Okay. It didn't. So I mean, because like I know what numbers look like and things and the way things. There were some loud, annoying people
At G4 or on the internet?
Oh, on the internet. And a lot of those people weren't watching in the first place. They were reacting to
the quartering
video. And they came to it another way. That's still the idea that things weren't political in the era of GamePro. That's true. But I also am of the mind that if you're not political, that is a political stance.
That's true.
Sometimes not a very well articulated one. But I guess the other thing is, there are websites that are political. There are TV shows that are political. The only thing I can say is if you don't like the politics or you don't like its presence there, then stop watching. It's like, if you don't like what they're saying at Polygon, go to Game Informer. There's just no one's being obliged to read this stuff. So yeah, and the problem is we live in a political era. And that's what we're being expected of. My God, after the Frost thing, everyone kept on talking about everyone was pretty much sending me the same thing, like how Michael Jordan said that there's something about the selling of underwear for Hanes, but that was then. Now it's like even Nike knew full well to go be to kind of like Kaepernick and stuff like that. That it kind of is the flip side of the brand discussion that I was having with Jaffe. Like brands are there. And now those brands, if you're going to associate with it, you want to have a better sense of what you're associating with. It's where we are right now. And the idea that it's going to change and it's going to revert back, if it does happen, I'm not going to be alive for it.
No, I hear you.
I just don't see it.
And I know, like, this term, like basically professionalism and G4, two kind of words that don't really go together in the sense of like, the things that you guys do on the channel. But do you think that maybe like throughout that incident, there could have been maybe a little bit more professionalism in terms of the way, it was kind of received, right? Because let me give you an example.
Professionalism is how it was received or how it was delivered?
Delivered, handled. Let me give you like an example of Alana Pierce. You guys are obviously familiar with her. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I know Jaffe is, right. She's working on.
Oh yeah, no, I know her. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So she was getting all types of hate mail. From God of War, even prior to God of War, but never has she like kind of backlashed against.
There's actually a huge difference there.
So she should basically keep quiet and just
not keep quiet, but like she definitely voiced her opinion, right? Like she'll take to social media and she'll have people like Review Tech Rich, who's coming on. He made a piece about it. Yang made a piece about it. You know what I mean? But never was it really like an abrasive kind of.
Well, who gives it? Okay, but the question is, go ahead, Adam.
Well, there's two things there, and Jaffe, you can probably opine on one aspect of this more authoritatively than me. She is working on God of War. I don't know to what degree she's allowed to be a spokesperson for God of War, and so that can sometimes narrow some of your things. Whereas in the case of a host on a television show, like you're speaking out. Moreover, I guess my question is to something I just said more recently. Clearly, you would have liked to have seen something more professional from Frost, but you could also stop watching. I mean,
for sure.
The thing is, we're in July. That happened in February, and it seems to be enough of a concern for you.
No, not for me personally. Like I can get gaming news from anywhere in particular.
Right,
but I'm just saying the whole kind of comeback was kind of smeared by that in some sense. You know what I mean? Like. Just like going on Twitter.
Like the one thing I'll say, that was going to happen whether or not she did something like that. Shitty gamers are out there just looking. It's like fights back when I was in high school. There's like they're like those dudes who are like so hyped up, so on edge, and like they say, "What are you looking at?" And I would just say like, "I wasn't." That's still enough to set it off, and that's what that
confrontational type of thing. But do you think maybe the platform might have, played a part in that? Like, because I'm assuming that the majority of those negative comments would have came from YouTube and not Twitch, right? Whereas Twitch doesn't really have.
Nothing happened. Nothing happened in the moment. It was when the quickening got a hold of it that the whole thing changed.
All right, thank you, Easy. Appreciate it, buddy.
All right, thanks, guys.
I will ask, so there was never a moment where G4 management called Frost and said, hey, Frost called her and said,
Jaffe, I don't know.
Okay,
I mean, honestly,
okay, gotcha.
When that happened, I was up in San Francisco. I stayed in San Francisco, I think, because I think there was a COVID.
Okay, understood.
No, my wife was like recovering from surgery. That's right.
Oh, okay. Bigger fish to fry.
I just wasn't privy. Right. If that happened, I just wasn't aware of it. So.
Understood. Yeah, and look, I mean, ultimately, that's the channel. So whether she said it then or someone else said it another time, I think it was inevitable that, the colors of the host were going to come out.
Yeah.
And you can like it or hate it, I mean, like I said, other than the one thing she said that I thought was a little off about former host, I agreed with everything she said. I was glad she said it.
It's and I'll say maybe I didn't agree with everything she said. I'm not going to contradict it because once again that'll just be taken out. It's just, as you said earlier with the tweet that like you could like me and Colin.
Right.
Like you got out of third grade.
It's the craziest fucking thing. All right, let's bring in Mr. Not Mr. Mario Chief. It's Jaffe. Good to hear from you again, sir. What's going on, bud?
Hey, Jeffy. Hi, Adam. How are you guys doing?
Hey there.
Good.
So I've been going to therapy for the last few months, and I just wanted to be very thankful to you guys for being really open and real to your guys' experiences. I have a lot of anxiety, so it's good to hear that I'm not the only one.
You are so not the only one, and welcome to the club of transparency and mental health, because the number of people who go around this world trying to pretend they're quote normal are anything but, and it's very damaging.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think anxiety, especially in the past 3 years, I think anxiety is unfortunately closer to the norm than it isn't. I'm so glad to hear you're in therapy. I just have two things I would just kind of let you know from years of doing it. Be as honest as you possibly can with your therapist. He can only help you with what you're talking to them about. And I don't know if you have a psychologist or a psychiatrist. It's not my place. I'm not asking for an answer. Obviously, a psychiatrist can't prescribe, a psychologist can't, but your regular doctor can prescribe. And so it's somebody, if I just can, a lot of people think that there's something unnatural about taking medication to kind of calm you down.
So dumb.
And I just don't want you or anyone else to think that there's something wrong if you go on that medication, and the idea that you might be on that medication. I always worried that I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing right now with Jaffe if I was taking pills, that like my brain wouldn't be as sharp. That I used to think anxiety was the thing that made me both funny and my crazy brain going all over the place, coming up with some joke or something like that. Nothing changed. Maybe for the first week I was more tired, and then my body got used to it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't, but I don't want you to think that it will impair you or that you are somehow impaired by taking on medication. That's all. And not just for you, for anyone else that is listening. So.
Definitely. I've definitely learned. I've been with like depression for a very long time, and I just thought that was just who I was. And if I were to not have that anymore, I would be a different person, but it's just really not like that at all.
Yeah. And it's weird. It's because you're so scared of what the change might bring that you're going to hold on to something you know is bad. I just love going to bed at night and not being scared about what I'm going to wake up to the next day, and waking up in the morning and not wanting to just figure out how I can go back to bed. So it really is. It's life changing.
Definitely.
I will say real quick, Mario, two quick things. Medicine's great. Sometimes people are like, oh, I feel like I'm in a fog or whatever. Get a different medicine. I know people who are totally great, but they've had to go through, it's a pain in the ass, but a handful of, experimenting until they found what works for them. Also, I will read this to you. This is from Scott Woodford, who's been a member for 5 months. Thank you, buddy. He says, as a conservative, he's talking to SESSLER, but it applies to both of you. As a conservative, have you considered ayahuasca to help your anxiety, Adam? I'm all for ideas for mental health. Ayahuasca, I know you can't get through the medical community, but my understanding is it's incredibly powerful and helpful. But Mario, check into, God damn it. What did I say, Adam? What was it? You inject it. It's wonderful for depression. It fixes it.
The ketamine treatments
within a couple of days, baby. I mean, check that shit out, dude.
Yeah. And obviously do it under doctor supervision.
Yes. Go.
I was going to say, I keep on having a reaction when Jaffe says this because I did some back in college, and that was one of the weirdest things.
Oh, no, you probably want to do a K-hole. No, this is different.
Yeah.
No, you can go look up, I think it's called fieldtrip.com, or just look up Field Trip in Google. They're one of the new companies doing it. All right, buddy. Good to hear from you. I'm glad you're in therapy. All right. See you soon, bud. And I mean, that's one of the nice things about what you do and what I've started to do is that, just the immediacy of the internet, the ability to communicate with people and sort of, make people aware that, what the media is shoving down your throat to sell shit is not normal, and it's not real, and it's okay to turn your back on it,
That's a big thing too. And this is for people, I am politically sensitive, I guess that's a term. I think it was Tom Russo who once used that to describe me.
Tom, yeah.
And that one other thing is, horrible things happen just about every day. And I choose what horrible things I'm actually going to let get into my head. And sometimes you're not a bad person by turning your back on it and just playing Kirby.
That's right.
It's like you are not a bad person. You do not have to empathize with everything. You do not have to comment on everything. And sometimes commenting just kind of drags you in deeper into what can be a mentally unhealthy situation.
Totally agree. All right. Are you ready? Are you holding on, Adam?
I'm holding on.
Here's P Turtle. P Turtle,
right.
Did you fix your shit?
Mr. Turtle?
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. Okay, what's up, man? You're on with Adam SESSLER.
Yeah. Adam SESSLER, how you doing, man? This is P Turtle.
Hello there, Mr. Turtle.
I've actually had a bone to pick with you since 2013.
Wow, that's good. You handle grudges well, clearly.
No. I'm shocked actually listening to this interview that, there's actually two things we have in common that shocked me. One being I also don't like Colin. He's a Rockefeller Republican, which is just an edgy way of saying he's a liberal. And I think that's lame.
I thought you called them rhinos. Aren't they called rhinos?
Yeah, I guess they are, or neocons, whatever you want to call it. Even though he's not a neocon. But the second thing is that obviously I too don't allow people with certain beliefs into my life. And, but I admit I'm a bigot. Would you admit you're a bigot?
No.
No, so you don't think you're a bigot based on that comment, that you don't allow certain.
No, I'm just not acknowledging that I'm a bigot.
Oh, all right. I guess I'm more honest than you.
What are you a bigot towards, P Turtle?
Well, if I tell you, am I gonna get kicked off this, or
if you tell me what you're a bigot towards? No. If you insult someone personally, sure.
Oh no, I'm not gonna insult anybody personally, but I don't agree with homosexuality, the LGBT.
You don't. What do you not agree with?
I believe that lifestyle is detrimental. And like Jeff, you have kids, right?
I have two kids. I have one kid who is a beautiful, wonderful trans son of mine.
Okay, sure. But the fact that I feel that when it comes to me being a parent, I should be able to instill values and principles into my kid where you believe your kids can just run around and do whatever they want. And that's
that's mischaracterizing, but I don't think Adam or I think that anyone should stop you from being able to instill values in your kids. I think your biggest problem is you got to find a woman who wants to fuck you. And that, my friend, come on now.
Absolutely. But nevertheless, I just feel that, do you want to be a grandparent? Is that something you want? Is that something you ever wanted?
I think that would be a lot of fun.
It would, right? So I don't know.
But my kids are not an extension of me. My kids are not toys. My kids are fully functional.
That's where we disagree.
Oh, then that's too bad. My kids are fully functional human beings, and their life. My goal for them is to do everything I can to facilitate a happy, warm, loving life for them to go out and have their adventures. If their adventures end up resulting in grandkids for me, that's awesome. But that's not my.
Sometimes, happiness is not necessarily more important than having a purpose. And I want to make sure my kids have a purpose, a good purpose. And one of those things being, I want my genes to continue. I want to pass that down.
Oh, God, please don't do that to anybody, P Turtle. All right, P Turtle, ask SESSLER your question. We got to keep rolling.
Look at you. You already took me off, and you started.
It's not the P Turtle show. It's the Adam SESSLER show. Go get a show and be famous like Adam, and I'll put you on the fucking interview. Meanwhile, ask SESSLER your question. Go.
So, Adam SESSLER, you said basically that when it comes to people having a problem with what you guys do on G4TV now, right? That, you don't have to watch it anymore, right? Like, you don't have to stay there and entertain this. My issue is that me being, I guess, from your POV would be a disgruntled gamer. I feel like you guys do the same things when you guys have issues. And I'm going to go back to 2013.
Who's you guys?
You gaming pundits, journalists,
I'm not a gaming journalist.
Who said
I
that?
am a pundit. I think pundit.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm grouping all you guys in.
Yeah, pundit fair. Okay.
So a pundit, journalist, even the corporations, whatever. You guys always say, "Oh, well, you don't like it, just move on." One thing I want to also make clear, because you were talking about your generation.
That's not a question. What's your question?
God damn, but Jeff, you're also about to get them.
Well, get to it quick. I got a bunch of people.
It feels like Comic-Con.
Yeah, come on now.
Okay, but Generation X, right? You were talking about how you guys won't really do the things that the millennials do because we grew up on these Saturday morning cartoons and all this, right?
That's not what I said, but go on.
I mean, I'm trying to be quick here. I'm trying to be as quick as I can. But basically, when it came to the Star Wars prequels, it was the Generation X that was tearing that franchise apart.
Dude,
You guys are the reason why George Lucas.
You guys, okay. I don't recall making too many comments about.
I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm not.
Well, then I don't understand what you're asking me.
I'm talking about your generation.
But you're asking me to then speak of things I wasn't a participant in. It's like asking. You might as well ask me about the Kennedy assassination.
That makes no sense. The other thing I wanted to say was this.
Goodbye, Pete Turtle. Goodbye, Pete Turtle. Pete Turtle is a what do they call it? Pete Turtle's the spice to the meal, but he cannot be the meal, Adam Sessler. Do you guys have a Pete Turtle on G4? If not, I highly recommend getting one. All right.
We have a bearded dragon.
Listen to me. I thought, Frosk, I thought you guys missed a great opportunity to turn her into a heel for those kinds of people that we're talking about. It's like fucking, make her like a WWE character every time you see her. She's going off, and people would fucking hate watch the shit out of it, and the younger generation would find a hero.
Yeah, but sometimes I don't think I would wish that on somebody.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I mean, as a concept, I get exactly what you're saying, and I would take it. I played the heel on something like that, but I don't know. We were talking about getting kind of stuck in one particular lane.
Yeah.
I'm stuck in my lane because I've had 30 years to get out of it.
Yeah, understood. This is Little PP Zach. You want to talk about confidence? He literally named himself Little PP Zach. Little PP, you're on.
I like that.
Adam Sessler, what's up?
Hey guys, how's it going? Little PP Zach here. My balls are fat. It's a pleasure. I just wanted to thank you, Adam, for the Little PP tweet that you put out there and all you did for the Little PP community. It meant the world to me.
Ever so often, I just feel I need to stand up for the Little PPs.
What did can you fill the rest of us in? What happened?
I have no idea.
Oh, at the beginning of the stream, he talked about how his PP gets cold.
That's right. But
that didn't mean it's little.
Well, whenever, if you've seen Seinfeld, George Costanza, he was in the pool.
Oh, the shrinkage.
Right? Yeah. Some scary stuff.
Do you have a small penis? Do you actually have a small penis?
Well, that's up for my wife to decide.
Okay.
But, I'm all about little PP confidence and embracing who you are.
I just want to tell you one thing, and I don't know what Adam thinks about this, and I don't have any kind of dog in the fight. I'm very happy with my size and whatever. It is what it is. But I'm not shaming this person, but when I was in college, I was at a party and there were strippers there, and they not only took off their clothes, they took off everybody else's clothes. This was in Los Angeles. I can't believe we're still alive in terms of sexual transmitted disease and stuff. But I saw this guy for the first time, and I've never seen a penis that small in my life. And I don't mean that like to shame him. I'm like, I'm talking Barnum and Bailey, Ripley's Believe It or Not. Like, I didn't know they came that small. Do you understand what I'm saying, Adam Sessler?
I think I know. I mean,
it was so small. It was like a little acorn.
Would this have been a chance of it's a grower, not a shower?
Oh, I hope so for his sake.
Oh, okay.
I hope so. All right.
Yeah.
Little PP, thank you, buddy.
Oh, of course. You're very welcome.
All right. And he's off into the night. Let's bring in Gravity, our good friend Gravity. Gravity, you are on with the infamous and the famous Adam Sessler.
Thank you so much. It is an absolute pleasure to talk to both of you.
I deeply respect Gravity because it is the one law that enforces itself.
There you go.
Nice. So I have two questions. I think the first would feed into the second. Adam, how do you factor in originality when reviewing a game?
So the cart and the horse are a little reversed in that question for me.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like when I would review a game, let's take it from the score point of view, but not the numbers per se, but how I evaluate something. It's not like, say, a gymnastics or an ice skating routine where everyone goes in with the potential for 10, and based upon things, it becomes less than 10, and you start to chip away at it. It's more, A, am I having fun, or am I engaged? And then, if I am, start to ask questions of, okay, why? Oh, this is really new and original. Or this is something I haven't done before, or they're taking something I'm familiar with but kind of turned it on its ear and I'm reevaluating it. Or if I'm not liking something, why? Okay, I've done this before. I've been able to sort of predict what's going to happen in the gameplay every step of the way. That's kind of how originality manifests. It's not that originality is a required element that I must see manifest in the game. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Thank you very much. And for the second question, I've become, over the last 5 years, I've seen kind of a slowdown in innovation on the gameplay front. We've certainly seen an increase in like accessibility, new monetization models, things like that. But compared to like 15 years ago or so, where there was a lot of innovation happening, I feel like there's been a relative slowdown in the AAA space at least. When looking to the future of games, what are you really excited for?
What am I excited for? Games that make me forget the world. I don't know. I mean, Elden Ring just has so blown my mind in such ways I didn't anticipate that, like, I do feel that something very, very kind of original. It took something that they had done, put it into a more open world, and really asked some really good questions as to how does that work in the open world. It's just there's such an interesting conversation that's happening between From Software games inside of that game. I mean, in terms of what am I looking forward to, it's not VR. I'm actually exhausted by VR meta, whatever the hell we're calling it right now. I actually think VR is going to become far more interesting for things outside of games. I think it's going to be something else. I'm excited. Okay, let's actually bring in the monetization thing, because there's an inevitability there. Kind of taking what Destiny started, and just so you know, I'm not a huge Destiny fan. I don't even play it that much, but it really was something of a watershed moment in terms of this is a new kind of game. It's kind of MMO, it's not. It's a shooter, it's not. It's a way of bringing people together. It was very, very rough around the edges early on. I still think it still has problems, but things are moving in that direction. Where we go with that, because there's money to be made there. That's the fact. And that, I think that there are good games to be made there too. So I'd like to see how those two things merge. That the forever game is what everybody wants, at least. Every company wants at least one of these things. And what's funny is you talk about the lack of innovation. I'm not going to dispute that, but I think sometimes if you play too many games, you're going to get a sense of a lack of innovation. But really where the game industry is going, if you look at everyone who's playing games, they want people to play that one game and just that one game. And so you may not see this massive explosion of innovation. Like if you look at,
I mean, in the indie space, the indie space is thriving with innovation. Yes
and no. I mean, if you can also look at the indie space and see like a lot of people still trying to do very similar things. I'm not to say that there isn't innovation there. I think when it comes to the next big thing, and like what if you look at history, like there's only so many cotton gins, there's only so many printing presses, and we've been having that in the game space, I think, with a far greater frequency than I would have anticipated. And I think the thing is that you have that big change, and then you have these very interesting tweaks to that change. I think with the gaming space, it was kind of let's revert back to something that's more pure gameplay. Yeah. And that's where we got a lot of great 2D platformers, and that people wanted to go back to the 16-bit graphics. Because it's kind of like, let's kind of take all that pizzazz out. Obviously, it also makes things a little bit easier to program, I believe. And that we're really going to focus on the gameplay. And that there's really fascinating things that come from that.
All right. Thank you, Gravity. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate this question.
Take care.
Oh, there he goes. Elden Ring's really fascinating because it's one of those things that I think my theory on this game, and I adored as well. I was so bummed to hear that the big, thick 2-volume sets of their strategy guides have been pushed to October. It was supposed to come this week, but is by taking their system, which I loved in Bloodborne, and making it open world and actually putting a lot of cool shit in the open world, I think what it did was it created this sense of immersion that you haven't gotten anywhere else, because when you get stuck in Elden Ring, there's always cool things that make sense to do. You don't go off and do it like, well, I'm stuck, I guess I'll go do something else. You go off and inevitably, by doing something else, you unlock abilities or knowledge or another section of the map that not only will allow you to go back to where you were stuck, but totally sweeps you into a new section of the game. And it's not the holodeck where it's writing itself in real time, procedurally, but there is a sense that you are living in that world more than any other game I can think of.
Well, it does something. I've always talked about how, like, the game that really got me into games, I'll always, sort of talk about it, is Ghosts and Goblins. Seeing it at the arcade.
Yeah.
I was terrible at the game, but I used to watch people playing it, because the real reward of that game is you got to see what the next level was like.
Sure.
Every level had distinct aesthetic look to it, and it captured that in that I wanted to see what was around every corner. Like, every boss could be so bizarre, or strange, or interesting, or unexpected. Like, it went back to such a pure, almost childlike amazement of games, which is just that kind of like, ooh, what's that? Wow!
Right.
Which, in open world and so many other games really are lacking. And unlike a regular From Software game where, they're not completely linear, but you're pretty much on a fairly regimented path. Here, it was the exploring would reward you with wow. Which is just, there's something so pure about that. And it's not the exploring will level you up, or the exploring will net you more grinding. It's just wow.
Right. I mean, it's a well-written game in that the writing is in the world building, not in a cutscene. And so, I mean, I remember the two that stood out to me are when I was very early in the game. I'm coming around this bend on my horse, and I see the giant trolls just pulling the carriage. And I know that they started reusing that, but the first time I saw that, I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then in the main city, the Golden City, whatever it's called, I found this one place where you climb up this tree and you explore the branches, and there's just this dead guy who's been mummified sitting in a chair who's hanging from the ceiling. And if you look at him and then look at what he's looking at, there's a whole story that they mummified that guy and had him, you know the part I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm just like, this thing continues to deliver. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
It really is. And somebody I like has said that, like, I think we're going to see a lot of companies are like, we need to have our Elden Ring. And I fear, I'm pretty confident that it's those elements that really make it.
That's right.
That they're not looking at. It's kind of like, we need it big and hard.
Yeah, I know. They're not very bright. None of these people who get in positions of executive power, not none. Sony's pretty fucking bright when they're creating executives.
Sony's pretty bright. Yeah.
But there's a lot of them that are like, what the fuck are you doing? Mr. Brawl! Mr. Brawl has arrived. He's talking to Adam SESSLER. Mr. Brawl, what's up?
Young ass.
Did you just call me young ass?
He did?
I don't know. I'll take it.
No, and young ass.
I don't know what you're saying.
You hear me well? Am I coming through?
Yes.
Can hear you.
Yes.
Mr. Brawl.
Awesome. Oh, what's up? So I'm going to bring this one back to Colin. So I know, Sess, you block Colin. Totally fine. Obviously, that's how you should use Twitter. But it seems, correct me if I'm wrong, that you blocked everyone some automated thing that follows Colin. Am I correct or incorrect here?
Yeah, I didn't. I don't even know how to import those lists. I just just so you know, I just block people with impunity. The likelihood that I block people for reasons they don't deserve to be blocked is quite high. I just don't care.
Okay, no, that's
but it's just I look at Twitter. It's my thing. Is that I like to have interesting conversations with people capable of. I call it the adults table. And that if everyone's like upset that I upset someone that they like, that doesn't sound like someone I'm going to have at my table. It's kind of that simple.
Okay, gotcha.
And just once again, this is not something that, like, I don't have a ceremony when I do blocks or something. I did a thing on a day. There, end of story. I mean, it's just like people keep on looking for like some deeper meaning or something like that. It really was like something annoyed me. I don't even fucking remember what it was, and I blocked. There, end of story.
All right, Mr. Brawl, thank you, buddy.
Well, hold on. Yeah, no. So, okay, yeah. So
say something good.
I'm blocked by you on Twitter, and I've never interacted. And I've seen people make the comment where it's like, "Hey, if you need help blocking everyone, all of Colin's followers, like here's this link and stuff." I assume that that's something you do.
I follow Colin. I still follow SESSLER too.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I didn't realize
Most
that.
likely, you liked something he said about me, and I thought you were annoying, and I blocked you.
Nice. Damn. I hope that wasn't it. But yeah, no, I would just recommend. I don't really want to be like advertiser for Colin here, but he is the #1 video game podcast on Patreon. And personally, even if I disagree with the man on one thing 5 years ago, all fine. I think there's something to learn, there's something to gain from, even if it's Donald Trump, even if it's a terrible person, but he's the #1 person in the world. I think there gains something to be from just
Mr. Brawl.
Listen. I don't know.
Is the 96 indicative of the fact you were born in that year?
69 backwards. Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Regardless, what I was really trying to say is I'm about to be 50, and I don't feel the need to broaden my horizons in ways I don't want to. It's like, yeah. So
very fair.
All right, bro. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Oh, sorry, bro. I didn't mean to cut you off. Okay, here's what we're going to do because Adam's given us so much time. I've got 2 super chats to read for Adam and 3 more calls, and then we're going to wrap it up. I will say, if you ever get bored of G4, again, I'm a fan of Colin's. I'm a friend of Colin's. But his product is good. The only reason I even brought it up earlier about, is if you ever get bored of G4, this guy is in his company really are showing a lot of people what you can do if you're a good journalist, and you're a good journalist. I know you don't consider yourself that, but
I'm a critic.
People like to hear you opine on an industry they love.
Okay.
And in that, there is a really sexy, successful business model. And I'm sure you could find people just, spitting out your window that would be willing to work with you to do the stuff that you're deficient in at the moment, because the money that gets made there and the control you have is absolutely batshit crazy. So something to think about as we bring Death Saw on.
Yes, it is. I should never say never. That's
only because you're really good at it, and it certainly would supplement income while you're writing your novel. So
yeah, that's true.
All right, Death Saw. It is Jaffe. It is SESSLER. You are here with Jaffe and SESSLER. It is SESSLER Jaffe. Death Saw. What?
Hi. How's it going?
Good.
Hello there, Mr. Saw.
Yeah, the Saw of Death. Please call me Saw. But
all right.
But anyway, a statement and a question. Statement, Adam. Do you remember saying the phrase "dick" back in the?
Oh yeah, of course. It was from the Japanese wrestling game. Oh, what was that?
Fire
game?
Pro?
No. It was some silly characters, and one of them was Dick Van Dyke.
Okay.
And
yeah, I completely remember that. Go on.
Just wanted to say, got a lot of laughs out of that. Said that way after the fact for quite too long a time. But
Good.
But my question to you, a lot of people know about G4, but I really want to get into your impressions on the ZDTV and Tech TV days. We got into that at all in the stream?
Not a ton, actually. So go right ahead. What's the question?
Okay, well, to get into a little bit more, can you compare and contrast your Tech and ZDTV days to your days at G4 and how they were, different, good, bad, so to speak? Anything that stands out, or you like to?
ZDTV was so nascent. Like, I started about a month and a half into the launch of the network. Networks didn't exist up in San Francisco. What really had sort of allowed that to happen was Soledad O'Brien, because her show, I think, was being produced by Ziff Davis for MSNBC when she had that famous show on MSNBC. It was out of the studio that I believe Screensavers eventually occupied. Tech TV, I worked with some of the smartest people I ever worked with in my life. And the fun part about Tech TV was it was just an amazing community of people. It was a lot more 50-50 gender-wise than G4 was, and we all went out and partied together. But it was also, I was young. I was in my 20s. But it was also the late 90s in San Francisco. And that was when the internet was doing that explosion thing for the first time. And it was just, I just remember a couple of years where it was just a crazy time. And like, I don't think I paid for a meal. Because every company was like every startup was having some party. And so I would just flash my business card and it was enough to get me into anything. And I would have the exact same roast beef sandwich on these small circular sourdoughs. And you just spread some mustard on it and they have top shelf liquor. And that was great. And it was fun. I didn't really take the job I had terribly seriously. Things changed when we did the Tech Live stuff and that was under Paul Allen's direction when he was the complete owner of Tech TV. And it was in those last 2 years. XPlay was starting, but Tech TV itself was really struggling. Paul Allen didn't want to carry it anymore. And the G4 was, honestly, G4 and Tech TV, there was eras of G4 just as there were eras of Tech TV. There's parts of G4 that I absolutely loved. I wouldn't say it was the first year that we were there, and it definitely wasn't the last couple of years. But yeah, that's about the compare and contrast. That's why I'm going to write a book, because right now I could go on for another hour, but I am going to have to pee at some point.
Well, will you go ahead and go to the urination station at any time and you have to read that book? So
hang on, though, Death Saw. You got to ask Sessy to say it.
What?
What do you mean, what? What was your first question for him?
The iconic catchphrase?
Yeah.
Oh, Dick Dick.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Death Saw. Okay, last two calls. Let's bring in BitCloud Gaming real quick, and let's keep him short because the man's got to go urinate. BitCloud, it's Jaffe. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, what's going on?
Doing this thing with Adam SESSLER. You heard of him?
Oh, of course.
You goddamn right. You goddamn right. All right, go.
He's one of the guys that got me into journalism. That's one thing. Shout out to you, Adam.
Oh, thanks, man. At least if journalism's treating you okay. If it's
Well,
not, then I had nothing to do with it. So,
Well, it did pretty good. I got to work as a freelancer with IGN, so that was
cool.
So, but yeah, no. My question for you is, how did you feel about G4 coming back, and especially XPlay after it initially went off the air? Beforehand, it was like the only avenue we had to E3 and whatnot before everything kind of like became more expansive with websites and everybody having their own channels and YouTube. It was mostly G4. That was the network we went to for it. So how did you feel about it coming back? Were you initially on board, or were you kind of like...
See, I had heard stories for years about it coming back. Whether or not that was part of the initiative that actually brought it back, I think some of it was and some of it wasn't. Originally, I was so bent out of shape over what happened that I just wanted them to pay me a check to shut the hell up. But then, I would say the year leading up to it, I realized something real was happening. I did know people that were attached to it, so that when the conversation actually happened, I was told things that I was like, okay, good. I asked the questions. There was enough there that I was like, okay, this sounds good. I did feel that I wanted to bring something back.
Right.
I felt that things were almost like I really wanted the idea that maybe there is a way to get something a little bit more central, as what G4 is, what you described as. There's just everything is so, it's not even bifurcated. That implies too, but everything is so out there. I missed it. I missed it. There were so many exciting things that were happening in games. It's not like I used to joke about it. It took me a while, and would still happen, especially if it was like a Naughty Dog game or something like that,
right?
Or say the God of War 2013, 14, 15, 16. I can't remember what year that was.
Yeah,
where, like, I'll play the game and I'm writing the review in my head. Like I could actually see paragraphs where I'd be highlighting something I thought was so interesting in it. So I was excited to do something like that again.
All right, BitCloud, always good to hear from you, buddy. Thank you for calling, bud.
No problem, man.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. All right, Rob. Hang on, Rob. Did you want to talk to Adam, or are you modding those folks?
I was just trying to keep the crazy down, but I always say a little bit of something.
All right, well, let's bring in the last call of the day. Then this is.
Well, I would like to, show my appreciation to Adam. I am a huge fan from even as a kid. I watched the hell out of you.
Good. I always liked the idea that kids were watching, even though they shouldn't have been. I feel like I did something good or very bad to a generation.
Very good. As somebody who didn't have many friends growing up, my dad was in the military, so we moved around a lot. Watching, Tech TV, G4, anything really just like
that makes a lot of sense. Cool, man. I actually sincerely appreciate hearing that.
Absolutely, man. All right, you can bring in the next caller, Jaffe. I'm done ranting.
Thanks, Robert. All right, here's the last call, Stoner the Joe. There he is. God damn it. Stoner Joe, it's good to hear from you. How are you, sir? You're on with Adam SESSLER.
Hello there, Mr. Productions.
You there, bud? All right, while you're getting that worked out, Stoner Joe. Hey, Adam, why did Morgan Webb come back to the show, to G4? What happened to there?
She has a job. And I'm blanking on the name of the game developer.
Oh, she's working as a developer now.
Yeah. She it was the studio that Rob Hardo started when he left Blizzard. Okay.
I'm
blanking on the name.
Do you guys still communicate much or not really? You're not really off camera.
I usually see her once or twice a year. Pandemic changed all of that. But definitely like around the game developers conference.
All right. Well, when you see her, I want to know why she hates me. Okay. So ask her that question. Somebody wants me to ask you about Dreamcast guy.
Dreamcast guy.
He's got a YouTube channel. He says, ask him about Dreamcast guy. I'm like, okay. All right, there you go. He doesn't have any response. I'm going to try this one more time. Stoner Joe, you're on with SESSLER. Are you there?
Hello, Mr. Productions.
Hang on. I think I can fix this for us. Hang on. Here we go. All right. Stoner Joe, you're on with Adam SESSLER. Go.
Stoner Joe.
All right, never mind. All right, that's all the calls for the day. I appreciate it, fellas. I'm going to get these last two super chats. Oh, Stoner Joe, go. Well, there you go. Missed the chance. Okay, so let me get a couple super chats came in. I appreciate it. BitCloud Gaming says, no idea what I walked into. Shout out to you, Jaffe and Adam, two goats of the industry. Thank you, buddy. Ionic has super chatted. Thank you, buddy. He says, thanks for doing this, Adam and Papa Jaffe. Question, comment. Adam, I've been a huge fan for years. I just wanted to let you know that till this day, I still use your quote. I'm not your bra. I don't support anything. I love you, man.
I forgot about. I didn't write that one. I wish I could take credit for it.
I don't even know what he's talking about. But okay, Adam SESSLER. I want to tell you. I want to turn you on to one thing real quick, and then we'll say our goodbyes. Hopefully, we can do this again. I sure appreciate your time, man, and I appreciate you putting up with all the technical snafus today.
No worries.
But yeah, love chatting with you, buddy. I know you're a big reader. I don't know if you've read this book, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I'm not getting paid for this. This thing is fucking awesome. Have you heard of this?
No.
It is
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It's all about video games. It's about two designers and their life together. It is very referencing the industry. It would not surprise me if G4.
So it's fiction.
It's fiction.
Oh wow! Oh yeah,
it's just one of the best things I've read in a long time. And I know you read a lot, and it's about the industry, but it's very well written as well. So give it a look if you're looking for something new. New to read.
I'll definitely check that out. The one I read recently just got published a couple of months ago.
Which one?
Invisible Things. A book called Invisible Things.
Okay.
I know will find it very fun.
What is it about?
Well, I don't want to give away too much because I discovered through the course of it, but slightly sci-fi. A planet with life on it is discovered, but it's pretty much just America, but not as good.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting things.
Hilarity ensues.
Interesting things. Okay.
No, invisible things.
Invisible things. Okay.
Yeah.
Invisible things. Gotcha. All right, buddy. Well, listen, Adam, I will talk to you down the road. Thank you so much.
Got it, man.
And
my pleasure. It was so good to talk to you.
You as well. Long. It has been. Be safe, be well, and I'll see you on G4.
Later, man.
All right,
take care. Bye.
There he goes, fellas. That was the Adam SESSLER. I sure do appreciate him putting up with. I tell you something. It wasn't even technical snafus today. It was literally. I hadn't done an interview in so long that I haven't paid my Zoom update because I got a new credit card and it doesn't matter. I couldn't do it on the show. I just had too many hoops to jump through. So if you're like, why were you talking to the voice, the disembodied voice from XPlay? It's because we couldn't get the cameras working, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that's been Gabbing of Games for today. Heads up, Monday we will have not Tech TV. What's Richard's show called? USA Tech. Oh my God, I'm blanking on Richard's show's name. What is his fucking show? Review Tech USA. God damn, Jaffe. Review Tech USA is coming on sometime Monday. We got to figure out the time. I will be back later today, probably with a stream of gameplay, maybe some multiverses. And in the meantime, I'll be back tomorrow with a proper Gabbing and Games. Seriously, Adam SESSLER, thank you, buddy. I love talking to that guy. It was so, I really could. I wasn't fucking around. I could talk to the dude for another just hours about shit. And it's, the dude's got shit to do. I appreciate it. Yes, of course I'm going to get God of War Ragnarok when it comes out. Of course, Thomas Isaacs. Okay. In the meantime, everybody, RPG, thank you. Robert the Modder, thank you so much, buddy. Thank you guys for the super chats, for the subs. Hopefully you'll head back for a new stream soon. And be well. I'll talk to you guys down the road. Bye, everybody.